Shalom, Israel.
Shalom, family.
Shalom. Uh, Live from the Bay, huh? Today gonna be a good class. Yes, sir. Waiting for the elder to get situated. He'll be on shortly. So, elder been kind of going into like the basics of things, which is the most important thing that you need to know in this truth. But now the elder has decided, we have decided collectively to go into some mysteries of the scriptures. So the elder's going to do like a series of lessons dealing with certain prophecies and biblical prophecies and understanding. So the first lesson that we're going to tackle tonight is the beast and the 1,000 years, Revelations 20. So, there's many different breakdowns on Revelations 20. I've done a Revelations 20 breakdown a while ago, but it's nothing like having the elder do a Revelations 20 breakdown, who I learned it from. So, millennial reign. Is it going to be a millennial reign? Is Yahushua going to come back a second time? I mean, 2 times. He's going to come back 1 time, and then after he comes back that 1 time, he's going to reign for 1,000 years, and then he's going to let Esau be wicked some more. You know what I mean? Here's the elder right here. All praises. Got the elder on.
Hey, shalom. What's up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here, let me do it like that. So we got the elder on with us. All praises. We got shalom to the Akim and the brothers and sisters that are on live with us. We got 17 people on. I hope you guys are having a beautiful Sabbath. So what I was basically saying, elder, is that I guess we're gonna go. You've been going through the basics, right? Of things. So now I think it's a good opportunity for you to kind of go into the mysteries and like the prophecies and stuff. So I was just telling the people that you might go through like a series, dealing with the different prophetic scriptures, right? So starting off with Revelations 20, Con. So so Shalom. Oh, brother, my brother, hey, Shalom Pops. I see you on here. Princess Erica, Shalom. David Ben Israel, Shalom. I think that's Shantae. Shalom, Shantae. Good to see everybody. Makazah, Shalom. Good to see you. And Shalom to everybody that's coming on. So without further ado, and also too, man, I got my brother right here, man.
All right, Shalom, family.
Yes, sir. My brother Emmanuel, excuse me. We up here in the Bay Area. So if anybody's in the Bay Area, please feel free to shoot us an email and we'll connect with you. So Khan, all praises. Are you ready, Aki? Or you ready, Elder?
Give me a second, man. I'm having a little issue with this system right here. Hold on a second.
No problem. Take your time. So yeah, so like I said earlier, I've heard a lot of different breakdowns of Revelations 20. A lot of different understandings of Revelations 20. So
like what?
Well, the first thing that I heard is that there's going to be a 1,000-year reign. Christ is going to come back the first time, right? He's going to come back. He's going to reign for 1,000 years, and then after that 1,000 years, Christ is going to leave, and then allow Satan to be loose again after that 1,000 years. So basically, Elder, Christ is going to come back twice.
But yeah, so you're saying that Christ is going to take the kingdom.
Yes.
Bring all nations into subjection.
Yes.
Then Satan is going to be loosed to go out and deceive again.
Yes.
Impossible. Impossible. That makes no sense.
And the Christians say that. So I heard Hebrews break that down. No disrespect to no other Hebrew Israelites, but I've heard Hebrews break that down like that. And I've also heard Christians, they break that down because what the Christians is, yes, Isaiah 60 and all of the scriptures that show us having rulership over the nations, that's only going to happen in a 1,000-year period. After the 1,000-year period, all nations in Israel will be the same.
So what do you mean, on the same level?
Yeah, so the Christians, so Israelites teach that Christ is going to come back, reign 1,000 years, and then he's going to leave, and then Satan's going to be loosed again. Christians also teach that, but they put a spin on it.
Mhm.
They say that the heathens, the other nations, will be in servitude, right? You know how we go to Isaiah 60, right?
Yeah.
Isaiah 14.
Right.
That is talking about the millennial reign. So for the 1,000 years, the heathens will be in subjection to Israel. After the 1,000 years, Israel and the heathens will be the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's against the scriptures. So I
Uh-huh.
think we just probably need to start going into the situation right now on it, because real quick, shoot to the book of Daniel.
Okay, Con. You can get it if you got it too. Makazah said, while we getting Daniel, Makazah said, I've heard other brothers say after the 1,000-year period, all of Israel will be saved, whether they keep the commandments or not.
Well, I covered that. And what lesson was that where I talked about that?
Was it kind of like
it was one of the misunderstood scriptures.
Yeah.
One of those. And we covered that where that's not gonna happen when it talks about the 2/3.
Yeah, we did cover that.
We covered that. No. Yeah, we're the lake of fire and all of that. That's why we have to, because if that were the case, what's the point of us doing right now? What's the point of us even keeping the commandments now if Israel is eventually going to, be resurrected into the kingdom again?
Right.
For those that sin and have died and what have you, then supposedly sometime in the future they'll be resurrected again. That doesn't make sense, because then what's the point?
Right.
We might as well just do what we want to do and just get the kingdom when it comes to us.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
yeah.
The scriptures is real clear on that part.
Hey, Elder, they say the nukes is gonna come and blow us up real quick in a second, and then we're gonna wake up in the kingdom as righteous men and women.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, these are some of the things that's been taught right now, which I'm sure you've heard this all before.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Read Daniel 7 and let's read verse 26.
Go ahead, you got it out.
Okay. This is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 26.
Now, and here's the thing: when you understand what Revelations 20 is talking about, it gives you an actual dispensation of time of a particular event that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that time has already happened. So the chapter is kind of going into a little bit of history, and it brings it up until right now, but it's not the kingdom yet. Mm-hmm. When you read it, it talks about it, it mentions it, but it's giving you, in that chapter, is kind of taking you on a journey from a certain event that happens that's crucial to the children of Israel. It's crucial to history, but it's crucial to the children of Israel. And when we go into it, you're going to see why. But here's the thing. Read that in 26 again, bro.
Con, this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 26. But the judgment shall sit.
Damn, I'm sorry, bro. That brother, I would not expect the Jake to have that deep.
that Jake got a deep voice.
I was like, it threw me off. I'm like, wait, who's talking? Hey, all praise, man. Hey, that's beautiful. That brother got that bass, that power in there.
Hey, Elder. Yo. You would have, back in the day, in your street teaching days, you would have loved him to read for you.
Oh, man. Hey, all praises. Hey, Tawab, good job. Go ahead.
Count verse 26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end.
So now this is talking about when we read in Daniel chapter 7, it talks about the 4 great beasts that are going to come up. It ends with the 4th beast. And we know that 4th beast, I'm going to go into that too a little bit, because you have to understand who the beast is to even understand what Revelations 20 is even talking about. You see what I mean? So, but that beast, it lets you know that the kingdom of Christ is going to come directly, take that beast down, and then the kingdom of Christ is going to come up. Mm-hmm. Okay. So watch this. So it says that it shall take away his dominion, meaning that 4th kingdom, that last kingdom that comes up before Christ, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. Read on.
Verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High.
So it says the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given unto the saints of the Most High. Who's that?
Israel.
Israel, without a doubt. Okay, go ahead.
Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom.
Everlasting. So if dominion is taken, and then Israel's supposed to rule forever under Christ, how in the hell is the devil going to be loosed to go out and destroy again?
I don't know, Elder.
You see, you understand? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's like, why? So in other words, we're working hard. Christ is coming to bring all nations into subjection, only to release them and let them go out and manipulate and deceive again. Well, what was the point of him destroying them in the first place then?
Right.
You see what I mean? So this is where, precept upon precept has to be in effect. But when we get to Revelations 20, it's going to make complete sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's continue reading. So it says, it shall be an everlasting kingdom. Go ahead.
And all dominions shall serve and obey him.
And all dominions, meaning any power that ever existed prior to that, they're going to have to bow to Christ, Yahushua, and the children of Israel, and shall serve them forever. Mm-hmm. So how in the heck are they going to be loosed to go out and do it again?
Makes no sense, Elder.
And then not only that, but then how are the children of Israel, or how are the nations going to be equal to Israel when it says that they shall rule over them forever?
Well, they'll use scriptures like, what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, how the Most High said that it'll burn forever, but it's not burning. So forever sometimes doesn't mean forever.
Uh-huh.
They'll do that.
Well, that just simply meant that Sodom and Gomorrah will be destroyed forever.
Right.
Well, have you seen it?
Nope, it hasn't. That whole landmass.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You think it's coming back?
Not at all. No.
No. That's why it says that this new Egypt is spiritually called Sodom, because the original Sodom is no more. It's been obliterated from the face of the earth.
Right.
So, but when it says that it shall burn forever, that meant it shall be burned and destroyed, never to return. Doesn't mean like the smoke is just going to go up forever, just perpetually. It just meant that once that destruction comes, it will not stand ever again.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? So even here, when Israel receives dominion, what's going to happen? Israel's going to keep what? They're going to rule.
Right.
Okay. So read on.
Verse 28. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart.
So Daniel said, hitherto is the whole matter, meaning this is what's going to happen. This is, as I say, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Okay. This is what's going to happen. These kingdoms are going to come up. One kingdom is going to be different from all the ones that came up before it. It's going to rule the earth. But that kingdom is going to be taken down by Christ. Christ will receive everlasting dominion, give rulership to the children of Israel to rule over all nations. And hitherto is the conclusion of the whole matter. Is nothing else going to happen after that. Israel's going to rule forever under Christ.
Right.
So let's find out what this 1,000-year rule is talking about. You ready to go into it?
Come on, let's get. Hey, I'm excited for this one. So I'm with you. I'm with you on this one.
Let's get it. So let's go to Revelations 20.
Okay, come on.
And we're going to start at verse 1.
This time. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
So now, a clue that's going to help us to understand what this chapter is dealing with is, first, we have to understand who this dragon is that was bound for 1,000 years. See, when some start to think that, oh, well, see, that's the spiritual demon Satan. Is it? You see what I mean? That's the question we have to ask with verse 1 and verse 2. What is this dragon that's called the devil or called the serpent, the devil and Satan?
Mm-hmm.
The scripture tells us who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, let's flip over to chapter 12.
You got that one.
So we first have to understand who is this dragon. That's called the dragon, the beast that's called the devil and Satan.
And it's funny, Elder, because I did a lesson on this like some time ago. And I had some brothers, I ain't gonna mention the name of the camp, and they was like, they did a video about us, and they was like, see, these young brothers, all they do is watch GMS videos, take a little bit of our breakdown, and then do their own spin to it. Not even knowing I got a whole elder that taught me this.
It is what it is, man, bro. Don't worry about that, man. Keep teaching, keep doing what you got to do.
God, go ahead. You
know what I mean? So let's read that 12, and let's get to that point where it said the angel came and bound the dragon, the beast, which is called the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So who is this beast? Let's read 12 and let's read verse 9 so we can find out what it's talking about.
God, this is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world.
Stop right there. So now, that's the same beast that Revelation 20 is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
This is the beast that's going to get bound for 1,000 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now, what is it talking about? So it said, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. So one thing we know is that this beast deceives. Mm-hmm. Okay. And read on.
God, he was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
So one thing we have to be careful of is that when we see the word angels and things like that, we also have to look at the context. Is it talking about an actual angel? Is it talking about a nation? Is it talking about a people? When it speaks about Satan, is it talking about the actual spiritual demon Satan? Is it talking about people with a satanic spirit? Mm-hmm. So we really have to kind of understand what the context is speaking of. So this is the same beast in verse 9 that is mentioned in Revelations 20, that the angel bound him for 1,000 years. Described exactly the same. That dragon, the beast called the devil and Satan. This is the same one. Okay. But now let's find out who the dragon is. Let's read verse 1.
That's what
you want 20 or you want 12?
12 and 1.
12 and 1. 12 and 1.
God, this is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and her head a crown of 12 stars.
So that's talking about the children of Israel. Hold that. Go to Jeremiah 6 and 2.
I got you.
So I'm going to give you the precepts on these today so that there's no confusion.
Mm-hmm. Jeremiah.
So there appeared a wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So we know that the 12 stars in that crown is a clue. Talking about what? The 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. So why does it say a woman? Read Jeremiah 6 and 2.
Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 2. I have likened the daughter of Zion to
which is Israel, the daughter of Zion, Israel. Go ahead.
To a comely and delicate woman.
See that? So that's why it says this woman is clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. Is the Most High, remember, he's married unto Israel. Israel is the bride. That's why it's referenced as a woman. Okay, let's go back to Revelations 12.
God, verse 2 again.
Yeah,
verse 2.
God, and she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered.
So what does it mean that now, if the woman is Israel, what does it mean and her being with child? Well, let's find out who that child is. Flip over to Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. We're going to come back at 12 in Revelations 12, but get Matthew 1 and verse 21.
Matthew chapter 1 and verse 21. And she shall bring forth a son.
Now, in this context, hold on. In this context, it's speaking about Mary, the mother of Christ. Okay. She shall bring forth a son. Okay, go ahead.
And thou shalt call his name Yahushai.
Yahushai, meaning he who saves or savior. Go ahead.
For he shall save his people from their sins.
That's the deliverance that the children of Israel is waiting for. So who's going to bring this deliverance? Christ. Okay. This is the child that's going to be born to save Israel from their sins. Okay. So, and what nation does Christ come from? When you read Hebrews 7:14, what does it say? It is evident that our Lord sprang out of the tribe of Judah. Okay. So now let's go back to Revelations 12. So if we don't understand who the beast or the dragon is, it's no way we're going to understand what this 1,000-year rule is, or this 1,000-year period that of where this beast is bound. Okay. So let's read verse 3 now, Revelations 12.
God, this is Revelations 12 and verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And
now watch this. So now you have the children of Israel, where the scripture right here is using a comparison of the woman,
Right.
in pain to be delivered. So just like a woman that's about to give birth to a child, Israel at this time is about to give birth to the Savior, who's going to save them for their sins and deliver Israel. Okay. So, and now it says, and there appeared another wonder in heaven. Go ahead.
God, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. Now, what is this talking about? This is now, if the woman is a kingdom, talking about the nation of Israel, then this dragon or this red dragon has to be a kingdom. Y'all see that? Well, the scripture will fill us in on what kingdom this is talking about. Let's continue reading.
Come, verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven.
So this dragon, this beast, this red. Now, remember this clue. What color is it?
Red.
Red. That's a clue. This red dragon, it said his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. So similar to like a scorpion. When a scorpion bites someone or stings someone, he uses his tail. So in this sense, the dragon would use his tail to afflict a third part. Okay, read on.
Come, and did cast them to the earth.
So it said, and drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. Okay, we're going to find out when we flip over who this stars of heaven is talking about. Okay, go ahead.
And the dragon stood before the woman.
Now, the dragon stood before the woman. So the woman is who?
Israel.
Israel. So now this dragon, meaning this is another kingdom that stood before Israel to do what? Read.
And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered.
Right.
For to devour her child as soon as it was born.
As soon as it was born. Now, when did this happen? Let's flip over to Matthew chapter 2.
I got you. Let's get it. Matthew chapter 2, and you want to read verse
I want to read verse 1.
1? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. Now, when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judah in the days of Herod the king.
Herod the king. Now, here we go. Who is Herod? And what nation? Remember, it said that this dragon, who is a nation of people, stood before the woman. The woman is Israel, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Who's the child?
Yahushua.
It's Christ, who is to be what? To bring deliverance to the children of Israel, right?
Right.
So now we're going to see how this actually happened. So Herod, who is Herod? Herod the Great, talking about the ruler of one of the rulers of Rome. Okay. Herod was the son of Antipater, the Idumean. What is the Idumea? Is the Greek word of what nation?
Edom.
Edom. Y'all see how history just flows?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So now what do we have here? We have Israel, who's about to give birth or have Christ, because Christ comes of the nation of Israel, of the tribe of Judah. Now, this other nation that Herod belongs to, which was what? Rome, which would be Edom, or the nation of Esau, or the so-called white man. Let's find out how he stood before the woman Israel to devour Christ as soon as he was born. So it says, read verse 1 again.
Now, when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judah in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem,
Uh-huh.
saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him.
So he's called King of the Jews because we just read in Daniel 7 how Christ's kingdom is going to last for how long?
Forever.
Forever. So now read the next verse. We read verse 3.
Verse 3. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
See, they got upset. They said, wait a minute. This king of the Jews is going to rule forever. We can't let this happen. He's going to save the children of Israel. It's prophesied that the children of Israel are going to be above all nations and put all nations in subjection. We got to kill this kid. He can't live. We can't let this happen. But what did the scripture say? You can't fight against the Most High. You can't kick against the pricks.
Right. Yep.
Most High said was prophesied will stand. So, but in their mind, they figuring, well, if we kill Christ, maybe we'll have a chance. Let's drop down. Let's read verse 13.
Verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream.
Now, who's Joseph? The father of Christ, the husband of Mary. Okay. So now this angel's talking to Christ's father, Joseph, in a dream. Read.
Saying, arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt.
So flee into another area. Get out of Jerusalem. Get out of Judea. Why? Read.
It says, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
Now, didn't Revelations 20 say that the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it was born? Now we see this happening. Who's doing this now? Herod. What nation is Herod belong? What does he belong to? The nation of Edom, the Idumean nation. At this point in time, it's called what? Rome. So now we see that the Roman Empire, who Herod was king over, sought out Christ to destroy him while he was a baby, when he was born. So that's why the angel came to Joseph and said, take your child, take your son and his wife and your wife and flee into Egypt, because Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. Similar to what they did with Moses, right? When they tried to have genocide on the children of Israel then with the Egyptians. Right. Okay. So now we have a clue of who this dragon is. The dragon is what? The Roman Empire. Okay. Now let's go back to Revelations 12.
God, this is Revelations chapter 12 and verse 5.
Yeah.
And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations.
Y'all see that right now? Without a doubt, who is that talking about?
Yahweh Shai.
So she shall bring forth the child. The nation of Israel brought forth Christ because he's a descendant of Israel, of the tribe of Judah. That's how you know that there's no virgin birth. Again, sidebar. Okay. We read that the dragon stood before the woman, Israel, to devour her child, Christ, as soon as it was born. What's the dragon? Now, we just read that it was Herod of the Roman Empire, who is a descendant of who? Edom. Now we understand why it said it's a red dragon. What was Esau described as? Let's go to Genesis 25:25.
I got you.
It doesn't get any simpler, right?
It doesn't. And correct me if I'm wrong, Elder. The only two things that's described as being actually red is the dragon and Esau, correct?
In the scriptures?
Yeah.
As far as nations, yes.
Yeah. 25 and what did you want? 25?
Yep, 25:25.
Genesis chapter 25, verse 25. And the first came out red.
So this is the birth of Esau and Jacob. So now what's funny is in Genesis 25:25, we see these nations, the nation of Israel or Jacob, and we see the nation of Esau or Edom, the brother Esau, that are born. And then when we fast forward to the book of Revelation, we see the same two nations at war.
Yep.
Y'all see that?
Yep. So
this
is a precept.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's the same exact thing. It's the two nations that have been rivals, but yet they're brethren.
Amen.
You see what's going on? So it said the first came out what?
Red. Salakia. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment.
Right.
They called his name Esau.
Esau. And Esau's name was later changed to what?
Edom.
Edom.
Yeah. Huh.
Edom. And what does Edom mean? Red. So when you look at the scriptures aren't just throwing a color out there just to be putting it there. When you look at the so-called white man, what color is he?
He's red.
Red. Almost like this, the color is Apocrypha.
If you slap him hard enough.
You don't even have to slap him. For him to be red.
You ever seen one of them? You ever seen one of them redheads? The redhead girls blush and they turn real red.
Oh my goodness.
Real red.
Oh my goodness. And that's the whole, when you look, like I said, when you look at them, that's why we say so-called white man, because that's what they've called themselves. But the truth is they're not. They're not white. They're red. From a pink to a dark red. But that's why he got the name Edom, because Edom means red, and Edom, the root word of Edom is dam, which means blood. So the reason why Edom's color is red is because of the blood that shows forth through his skin. See, and when we and that's even through genetics that you can, if you look into genetics and you look into the whole thing of skin and melanin, he's at the far end of the spectrum as far as color. He has no melanin. So therefore his skin is transparent, which allows the blood that's in it to pump through. And that's why he gives that appearance as being red.
And then I want to say this too, Elder, because I see Aviel, the servant, which he's correct. He said Edom equals wasted away. Actually, Esau means wasted away.
Absolutely.
Edom actually means red.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I just want
and that's good to correct. And be careful when we put in, definitions of things. Make sure we check them out. But good thing that people are participating and what have you. Yeah, and good catch. I can't see in the comments, but it's good that you're seeing that. Yeah. That's true. Esau means hairy or wasted away. And then you have Edom, which means red. Okay. Coming from the Hebrew root word dam, which means blood. So when you look up Edom in a concordance or what have you, it's going to say Edom or Adam, which means to show blood. Then they also throw out the word ruddy. I don't even want to get into that. I talk about that in my book, but I don't even. That's a whole nother thing, because red and ruddy are two different things. Don't get ruddy twisted up. You look ruddy. I look ruddy. You see what I'm saying? Because you can see the undertones that's under our skin.
Right.
It just shows the vibrance of the blood. Right. But Esau is red. And here's the thing: Esau is never mentioned and described as ruddy in the Bible. Never. Ever. And here's another thing. Every time the word ruddy is used in the Bible, it's always in association with beauty. Always. That's why the translators made it clear to use ruddy when dealing with beauty and use Edom or red when dealing with Esau and pertaining to blood. You understand? So we have these clues. The first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Esau's name was changed to what? Edom. Okay, so now we see this, but now let's read on. Let's read up real quick. Let's read verse 21 because we have to get this prophecy.
Okay, Genesis chapter 25, verse 21. And Isaac entreated and Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived.
So this is our forefather Isaac, the father of Jacob, the father of Esau, the son of Abraham. He's now about to give birth. His wife couldn't have children, but the Most High opened her womb, and she was made to conceive. Read on.
And the children struggled together within her. Within her, and she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?"
So when a woman is feeling so much turmoil in her stomach, the first thing she thinks is she's going to miscarry. So this goes to show you the battle of these two nations from the womb, from inception. It's been a war. Okay, read on.
And she went to inquire of the Lord.
So she's asking the Most High about this. What does the Most High say? Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
So these two children are going to be the fathers of two nations or nationalities, or better yet, races of people that are going to come on the face of the earth. Read on.
And two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
And these two manner of children, they're going to have different mannerisms. They're going to behave differently. They're going to think differently. Okay. So you can see that this is a fact when you deal with the children of Israel and you deal with the nation of Esau. Even though biologically we're connected, but spiritually and in our mannerisms, in our thought process, we're not at all. We're completely opposites. We're polar opposites from them. You understand? So this is something that we have to understand, because when we go back to Revelations, now it makes sense what this whole war and this battle is about. Okay, so read on.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
The one people shall be stronger than the other. Go ahead.
And the elder shall serve the younger.
Now the elder shall serve the younger. Now we're going to get to the point of why Esau's so angry with the children of Israel, why he goes out of his way to afflict and torture and destroy the children of Israel. The elder will serve the younger. So who's the elder? Read on.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb.
Not identical, but read on.
And the first came out red.
And the elder shall serve the younger. So the elder came out red. Y'all see that? Go ahead.
All over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
That's the elder who's going to serve his brother. Read on.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel.
So when the brother's coming out, Esau, the firstborn, is being born. Jacob, the younger brother, is grabbing hold. Why is he doing that? Is because he's showing that he's going to take Esau's going to eventually get power. He's going to take Esau out of power, and he will be in dominion. That's why I said the elder will serve the younger.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So now when we read that in Matthew, where it said, who is he that is born king of the Jews? Let us go see him. And it said, when Herod heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him, because now this Messiah, the Lord of Israel, the children, the king of Israel is being born, who's going to bring salvation to the children of Israel and destroy all nations and bring them into subjection. Now, do you think they want that?
Not at all.
Heck no. That's why Herod was upset and said, we're going to seek to kill this young Christ and destroy him as soon as he's born. As soon as we find him, he's dead. This was the thought process of Esau. But remember, he made a similar covenant back in Genesis. Remember, with the birthright and the blessing?
Yeah,
So I don't even want to go into that. I talk about it in the book, but extensively on the whole thing is Esau, the son of perdition. It's a whole chapter that goes into proving who Esau is, that he's a so-called white man. I'm talking about who the beast, and proving without a shadow of a doubt who he is. But we're going to skim through it. But we see that this dragon, red dragon, goes all the way back to Genesis 25:25. It was further confirmed that this dragon would stand before the woman to devour the child Christ as soon as he was born. That was confirmed in the scriptures when Herod did that. No other nation did that. Herod of the Romans, and it's funny that the Romans are what? Caucasians, which are in fact what? Edomites. That proves and verifies that the children of Edom, or the Romans, these Caucasians that's known in history, even the Greeks, are the children and descendants of Esau, Edom, without a doubt. So all that talk about Esau's the Arabs and Esau's Japhet and all of those is damn lies. The scriptures show you that Esau, and we just showed that the dragon, this red dragon, is the kingdom of Rome, who actually stems and descends from Esau. Y'all see how it works?
Yeah,
so it's that simple. It's that simple. Let's flip back to Revelations 12.
Got it.
And let's pick back up at I want to read that again in verse 3. I just want to back up to just clarify it.
This is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 3.
And
there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now, why does it have 7 heads and 10 horns? this red dragon that stood before the woman who was ready to be delivered. Why does it have 7 heads and 10 horns? Let's back up. Let's go to Daniel. Let's get the prophecy of this beast. We have to get this, because in order for us to understand Revelations 20, when it talks about it bound, the angel bound the dragon or the beast for 1,000 years. If we don't understand who the dragon is, we don't understand what that 1,000-year means.
Bingo.
You understand? So that way we don't have to sit there and try to figure, well, is the dragon spiritual Satan? Is it the devil with the key? Who is it? We don't have to worry about all that. The scriptures is unfolding who it is. The same dragon we read about in Revelations 20, that's called the devil and Satan, we read about in Revelations 12. And we see that it's a dragon that has 7 heads and 10 horns. So let's get Daniel 7. And we can start at verse 1. I'm just going to go through it, and I'm just going to keep it simple.
Con, we with you. Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and vision of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spoke and said, I saw my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
So now these 4 beasts, now are they literal beasts?
No.
No, they're not. How do we prove that? Let's flip over and let's read verse 17.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 17. These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth.
So you see that? So even though the scriptures are in Daniel seeing them as beasts, the interpretation of this is that they're kingdoms. They're kings that shall arise into power at different points in history. So this is no different than the dragon that we read about in Revelations 12. So now, when we read Revelations 20 and it says that there appeared an angel out of the bottom, having the key to the bottomless pit, and took the dragon called the devil and Satan and bound him 1,000 years. That means that this is a period of time in which Esau will be bound for 1,000 years. Now that happened in a period of history. It's not talking about the future. It's not talking about our kingdom, because Esau's not going to make it. Esau, remember, it said in Obadiah, all the children of Israel shall be cut off by slaughter.
Eat them. Yeah.
There shall be none remaining of the house of Esau. That's in the book of Obadiah. So that means that this bounding and this imprisonment is something in a particular time frame that happened. And it's going to even be even clearer. And I'm going to have y'all do some little bit of research and just type in a few things in Google, and it's going to come right up.
Perfect.
And everybody can participate. Everybody can see it. It's just right there in front of your face. We're just going to keep it easy. We're going to keep it simple. So these 4 kingdoms or 4 beasts are 4 kings, 4 kingdoms. Read on.
Okay, 18.
I'm sorry, let's go back to verse 4.
Okay, Daniel chapter 7, verse 4. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So now this first kingdom is talking about is Babylon. Now, when you on your own time, I want everybody to go into Daniel chapter 2 and read about the vision that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, sees. He sees a clay image. It's a clay image that has gold shoulders, silver, brass abdomen. His breastplate and all that was silver, and he had feet of clay and all of this. It goes into the it's the same. That vision of this particular image are the same 4 kingdoms that are mentioned right here in Daniel chapter 7. Okay, so the first one is speaking about is Babylon. How do we know that? We can flip right over. Let's flip over to chapter 6. I'm sorry, chapter 5. Now, remember, at the time of Daniel, even when you go to the beginning, this is the time of King Nebuchadnezzar and King Belshazzar, okay, that ruled Babylon. So it says this. Let's read chapter 5 and let's read verse 26. Daniel chapter 5, verse 26.
Uh-huh.
And it Salakia, and it reads, this is the interpretation of the king. Mena,
The thing.
huh?
The thing.
Oh, the thing, Salakia. This is the interpretation of the thing.
Uh-huh.
I think it's Meni.
Uh-huh.
God have numbered thy kingdom and finished it.
Now, what is he saying? Because this is, when you look at this, it's giving, when you read up above, a writing appeared on the wall in Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, and he couldn't understand what it meant. So he called for Daniel to interpret this writing. So Daniel said, no problem, I'll interpret it for you. So he said, the first thing that you're going to see is Mena means that the Most High has numbered thy kingdom and finished it, meaning that your kingdom is about to come to an end. The kingdom of Babylon is about to be over, because Babylon was a world power. Okay. It was a superpower in the time of Daniel at this particular time. So this is the first kingdom that Daniel sees. That was a superpower. The other superpower that was before that was Egypt. Egypt had fell already. Babylon conquered parts of Egypt. Okay. So Babylon had came into world power. We're not dealing with just little provinces. These beasts are great kingdoms. Okay. That changed the world, that go recognized in history. So not talking about the little Moabite kingdoms that popped up, or the Ammonites, or the Amorites, or the Canaanite. These kingdoms that we read. No, these are major kingdoms that had influence and took over parts of the world. They took over continents. When you take over continents, you are a power. If you have one piece of land, that doesn't make you a world power. You can have a kingdom, but these are world powers. That's the difference. Okay. So Babylon is this world power that's here ruling during the time of Daniel. So he says his kingdom has been found, and it's numbered, and he's finished it. Read on.
Verse 27, to kill, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting.
So meaning that he doesn't have what it takes to walk with the Most High. Read on.
Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
See that? So Daniel is showing them that your kingdom is done. It's going to be taken down and given to the Persians and Medes. Okay. Now drop down. Let's read verse 31. Read verse 30. I'm sorry.
Verse 30. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain.
Chaldeans is another name for the Babylonians. He was slain in that night. Read verse 31.
And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
So now the Babylonians were taken out of power, and the Medes and the Persians have taken it. That's why that prophecy is right there. Y'all see that? So let's flip over back to chapter 7. So the first beast that Daniel's seeing that's coming up out of the sea is the kingdom of Babylon. Now that we just read that the prophecy of that Babylon will be taken down by the Medes and the Persians. Okay, let's read verse 5.
Verse 5, Daniel chapter 7, verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth, in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh.
So now it said, here's another beast like a bear. Bear is strong. It's another ferocious, strong animal that came up to take down the Babylonians. It said it lifted up itself in one side. Why? Because remember, you had 2 kingdoms that came together to take down the Babylonians, the Persians and the Median Empire. Okay, the Persians were much stronger. They had more people. So they were able to come together, consolidate their forces, and take down the Babylonians. That's why it read, Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given unto the Persians and Medes. You see that? So that second kingdom that came into world power is were the Persians and Medes. And that rule began to be known as the Achaemenid dynasty. Okay. These are where you get Cyrus and all these other, generals and what have you, kings that stood up that ruled in Persia, or the children of Elam. Okay. That's in the Bible. So this is the second world power that came up. Okay. Read on.
Verse 6, after this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
And dominion was given to it. So now who took down the Persians and Medes?
The Greeks.
The Greeks. We can read about that and where? In the Apocrypha. This is real quick. First Maccabees 1.
God, you can get
And like I said, I want to give the precepts so that people can get him and they can go in and they can research it and they can check it out.
Yep.
First Maccabees 1:1.
God.
So the Babylonians were in power. The Babylonians were taken down by the Persians and the Medes. Now the Persians and Medes are taken down by the Greeks. And the scriptures confirm it.
God, this is Maccabees, the first Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1.
Yeah.
And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim,
Uh-huh.
has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes.
Y'all see that? So Alexander of the Greek lineage came into power and did what? He came and had a strong army, military might, and took down Darius, who was ruling during that time, of the Persians and Medes. So now you have what? The Greeks in power now. Read on.
God, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
The first over Greece. That also means this is the first time when the so-called white man came into power.
God,
Prior to them were who? The Persians and Medes.
right.
Prior to them were who? The Babylonians. Prior to them were who? The Assyrians. Prior to them were who? The Egyptians. Esau never ruled until right here, 333 BC.
God,
Let him tell it. He's been ruling the world since the creation.
He was Adam and Eve. He was the
He tell you he's been here ruling everything. That's a lie. This is right here is when the Edomite nation, the so-called white man, first got his taste of power.
Mm.
Now, mind you, he had a kingdom in Edom, Mount Seir, Petra, these places like that, but he wasn't a world power. He was constantly getting beat down by the Israelites. I talk about that in the book too.
yeah.
I'm telling you, you want to know about Esau and his history? Get the book, read about the son of perdition, Esau, the son of perdition. It's so much history in there, so much that man, it's incredible. Okay.
If you don't know, this is a book the elder wrote called A Mind Well Instructed by Ra'am Israel. You can get it on any platform that sells books, Amazon or what have you. And he goes extensively into what he's talking about. So if you want this information, get this book, A Mind Well Instructed. Just need to say that. After the Sabbath.
For sure.
God.
So Alexander took down Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, became the ruler, the first over Greece. Okay. Read on verse 2.
You got it.
God, verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him.
Mm-hmm.
Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up.
So you see that? So now it said he went through to the ends of the earth and took down many nations. So you see, these are world powers. And what it's showing you is that the next power that comes up is stronger than the one that was before it. So Babylon was a force, but it was no match to. That's why the Persians and Medes two nations had to come together. And even biblically, you had the Persians, which are a Shemitic people, and you had the Medians, which are a Japhetic people. They had to come together because they had a mutual enemy.
Right.
Y'all see that? And what did they say? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see, so at the end of the day, they were able to come together and take down the Babylonians. But then, as a fulfillment of prophecy that came, because remember, when you go back to Genesis, a prophecy was Isaac told Esau, "It will come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion." Y'all remember that?
Yep.
So remember when Jacob got the blessing and Esau came in crying, and Father, you don't have a blessing for me? He says, no, but he says, here it is. By the sword shalt thou live and serve thy brother.
Mm.
That was Esau's blood. Remember, going back, the elder shall serve the younger, right?
Yep.
And then he said that it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion and the dew of heaven and all of that. So meaning that Esau, there will be a period of time where he will have rulership. This is when it started, when the Greeks came into power. You see that?
Mm.
So let's flip back to Daniel chapter 7.
And that's crazy because biblically, we don't see Esau biblically. Like if you want to stick to the biblical context, Esau never had power. Like you know what I mean? Until, like you said, until the Greeks,
That's right.
right? And who are the Greeks? Now, if
Edomites.
you want to say the Caucasian man is not Esau, then show me when Esau had power.
That's right.
And who is the Caucasian man?
There you go.
Japheth? What prophecy did Japheth have
That's right.
in this particular biblical narrative? And where is Esau's dominion? If Esau's not the white man, when did this prophecy be fulfilled of Esau having dominion? You can't show it.
Absolutely. And that goes back to, as why it's mentioning this. And I have to bring out the point that each one of these kingdoms are world powers, are superpowers, because of the fact that they control land masses, continents. The Arabs, they haven't controlled a continent. They have little places, and they took little parts of Africa and little parts of the Levant region or the Middle East, but they've never controlled a continent. But if you want to fast forward even up to now, when Alexander went out on his campaign and he divided and set up a tetrarchy where he put his 4 generals to rule the 4 corners of the earth, the north, south, east, and west, Cassander, Lysimachus, what were the other ones? Seleucus and Ptolemy.
Yep.
Those were his generals that he divided the kingdom before he died into, where it said he had 4 horns. Those are the 4 generals that divided up the kingdom. And they went on their campaign in their respective areas and further processed and got more power for the Greeks.
It's funny that you said Ptolemy, because you heard about that real quick. You heard about that Netflix series of Cleopatra, and she's black. And then so the white people, they mad that she's black, and then black people, like, you know how black people are, like, well, y'all mad, Egyptians was black and all that, but Cleopatra was really white.
Absolutely.
She was of the Ptolemy dynasty.
That's right.
The Alexandrian the kingdom of the Greeks when they conquered Egypt.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't like to see, because they don't like to check the history. We know that the Egyptians at their heyday, at their time, of course, they were melanated. They were black people. But in the 3rd century, when Alexander went on his campaign, they conquered Egypt. That's why one of the centers of Egypt is what? Alexandria. What is that named after? Alexander. Right. The name Egypt itself is a Greek word. You understand? They never called it that. The word Ethiopia is a Greek word. You see what I'm saying? So all of these different that goes to show you that that's when Esau came into power, and the scripture says they called them lands after their own names. So they began to actually change these names and put their names on it. That shows you the influence. Now, the original inhabitants of Greece and Rome and all of that were the children of Japheth, which were people of color. But when Alexander and Esau started to run into these areas, and then they started to take control, they began to call these places Greece. And Grekoi and all these other things. You see what I mean? So Esau began to infiltrate these areas, and he took it over and called these places after himself. And that's why a lot of people think Esau is of the lineage of Japheth, because they come out of Russia and out of Germany and Greece and all these other places, when little do they know that Esau ran in and took over those lands.
Yes.
Just like he did in Egypt, just like he did in Israel, just like he did in other parts of Africa. You know how much control Esau has over Africa right now?
Everything.
He controls, out of the 7 continents, he controls 6 of them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that's the power that these kingdoms that's coming up would have.
Yeah,
but that will help us to understand further when we get to Revelations 20. So I have to go into this, because once we get to 20, it's going to be crystal clear when we start talking about the 1,000 years. You see what I mean? But you have to know who this beast is. So we had the Babylonians. Babylonians were taken down by the Persians and Medes. Persians and Medes were taken down by the Greeks. Well, who took down the Greeks? Let's go to Daniel. Let's go back to Daniel 7, and let's read verse 7.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. After this, I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces.
Now, stop right there. So this beast had to be way more powerful than the Greeks, way more powerful than the Persians and way more powerful than the Babylonians. So in history, and this is a fact, who took down the Greeks?
The Romans.
And where the Greeks got so weak to where they had to concede to the Romans.
Yep. The Romans.
That's where you get a kingdom known as the Greco or the Greek or Roman Empire, Greco-Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the same people. They're both the children of Edom. Mm-hmm. But what happened is, of course, through conflict, civil wars and all that, they began to break up. They formed a community called the Romans. They recruited, and the Romans, they brought in all kind of people. Whoever was willing to fight with them, they employed. And that's how they were able to get their strength up to go out and defeat the Greeks and take all their territories. So all the places of Egypt, Asia Minor, Babylon, the Middle East, Israel, all those areas that the Greeks controlled, now the Romans got them. Mm-hmm. So when we get to the New Testament, who's in power? Rome. Mm-hmm. So when you see Herod, Pontius Pilate, Augustus Caesar, Tiberius, Caligula, all the Caesars, the 12 Caesars that were set up, and the Apocrypha talks about that too when he talks about the 12 feathers, talks about the 12 Caesars. These are the 12 kings of Rome that ruled a period of time that created a system that no nation could overthrow.
Right.
That's why I said it was dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly.
And and that's crazy, Elder. And I know you're going to go through this later, but Rome fell from within.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the beauty of when we get to Revelations 20, because all of that stems and it builds. All of this is going to be beautiful to show you a time frame that the Most High is giving you in Revelations 20 is a timeline. Right. Even right here with these kingdoms, he's giving you a time frame. He's saying, listen, people are saying, well, when is the kingdom? When is the end? When is Christ coming back? When is this going to happen? When are we going to receive the kingdom? Well, the first thing we have to understand is that these kingdoms have to come into power first. And the end will not come until that fourth kingdom that we're reading about has to come into its fullness of power. So when people say, well, the end was in the time of Babylon, they're lying. Well, the end happened when Alexander. No, they're lying. It would not occur until these beasts receive their dominion. And then we're going to read that after this fourth beast, the next kingdom that comes up from that is Christ.
Yep.
So if Esau is ruling, and now we got to understand, we understand that this is Rome. Rome is the one who was stronger than the Greeks, and the Greeks had to submit to Rome. And they merged and became the Greco-Roman Empire. Right. But Rome being much stronger and having a military that was phenomenal. No nation could stand up against the Romans. They took down the Germanic tribes, all these barbarian tribes. Rome went out and conquered. When you watch the movie Gladiator, remember when when Augustus, what was his name? I can't think of the emperor at that time. What was it?
I can't think of his name either.
Aurelius, Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he was a true Caesar. So when he was in power, what did he tell them after they took down those Germanic tribes, which was known as Germania at that time? He said, there's no one left to fight. What should we do now? There's no one left to fight. They took down everything.
You know when you bad, you bad when you like, it's nothing left for us to fight no more. Nobody wants
they said they took down everyone. And when it came on, they came out with all this primitive warfare. The Romans had their bow and arrows with fire on them, catapults. They coming out with swords and battle axes. They couldn't stand up against that.
They had iron weapons too, I believe.
Man, they could not stand up against. No nation could stand. So, but they had the heart. They came out to fight. That's why the one general said people should know when they're conquered. And they said, we ain't backing down. We're going to go to the end. And Rome took them out. And then they organized. They had a military where there was strict discipline. Like the Navy SEAL and stuff that you see that the U.S. does today, Rome was doing that then. They had soldiers that could withstand all kind of elements, starvation, being out in the sea, and all these things. This is what they were building. This is how they were able to go into these islands and other places and conquer and take over. There's tons of books that speak about Rome's military might. So when it said that it was dreadful and terrible, that's how strong it was. So let's continue on in verse 7. Read that again.
Daniel chapter 7, Verse 7. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, which had great iron teeth.
That's the military might, that iron teeth. Go ahead.
And real quick, Elder, it's crazy because they use iron warfare too.
That's right.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It devoured and break in pieces.
It devoured and break in pieces. Now listen to this next part. Go ahead.
And stamped the residue with the feet of it.
And stamped the residue with the feet of it. Now, what did that dragon do in Revelations 12 when we read? It said his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth, cast them to the ground. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yep.
So this is when it was cast to the ground. Then it's showing you how they began to stomp upon them. You see, that's the affliction that the Romans and Esau did to the children of Israel. So when you go into where it says he stamped the residue, remember the Jews that were living in Jerusalem, how did the Romans deal with them? Murder. 70 AD. They killed over 1 million Jews. That's why the Jews that were there had to flee into the areas of Africa. And that's how they got to the western coast to be brought over to the Americas later. Due to the what? The atrocities that the Romans were bringing upon them. Mm-hmm. The Romans were the ones who crucified Christ. Even though our people delivered him up, the Romans is the one who pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Beheaded John the Baptist.
Yep.
It was the Romans who put the decree out that it was illegal for you to speak in the name of Christ.
Yep.
This is all going with. So now we understand where the dragon, the devil, and Satan, why these names are put upon this nation. Mm. Who lied and said that Christ was a white man? Mm. Esau, right?
Oh, yep.
Who lied and said and went in and cut all the noses of all the dark images all throughout Europe and covered over the paintings?
Esau.
That's a big part about that 1,000 year that we're going to get into, and it's going to be crystal clear for you. So we see that this is Rome that came after Greece, that was strong exceedingly. No nation could stand before Rome. Rome ruled for a very long time. America is an extension of Rome. Mm-hmm. Because Britain is an extension of Rome, and America is an extension of Britain.
Man,
Russia is an extension of Rome. Germany is an extension of Rome. France is an extension of Rome. Spain is an extension of Rome. That's why I said the dragon had what? 7 heads.
10 horns.
Because the Esau's when Esau comes into power, he had 7 power sources that his power and rulership stemmed from. Mm. Because when Rome grew, Rome took over. Remember, they set up kingdoms. They set up France. They set up Spain. They set up Germany. They had England, or the Anglo-Saxons, which came later. You guys understand what's happening?
Yeah.
All of these things were set up by this man, this nation, this kingdom. And it fast forward all the way to today. That's the power that Esau was given. It started with the Greeks. It went into Rome. And from Rome, it branched off to create these other strongholds that I mentioned, which are the 7 heads. And then the 10 other, which are the 10 horns, which is the rest of his kingdom. That's his central source. So when you look at France, these are Edomites. When you look at Russia, these are Edomites. When you look at Spain, the original Spaniards that spinned off, because remember, the Spaniards are the ones who went down and did what? Tortured the conquistadors and went into the islands and the Americas and conquered the Indians and the 10 tribes.
Yep.
All the same man. When he stomped the residue with the feet of it, that's Esau stomping and destroying the children of Israel. Mm. You see what's going on? Continue verse 8. Watch this.
Clear as day. This is verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there was 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes.
Oh, I'm sorry. We missed something. Read verse 7. We can't skip over that.
Verse 7. Yeah. Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. After this I saw the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces. And
so it took down many nations through its military might and policy. Read.
and stamped the residue with the feet of it.
The residue were the remaining Israelites that were in Jerusalem as they had control, similar to what we read about Herod. Okay, read on.
And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it.
It was
And
different from every kingdom that was before it in all ways. Okay, read on. Watch this.
And had 10 horns.
And it had 10 horns. Now, wait. This fourth beast had 10 horns. Well, what? Didn't the dragon? It had 7 heads and what?
10 horns.
It's the same beast. But this beast stood before Christ or before Israel to kill Christ as soon as he was born. So that proves to you that it was who? The Romans. Now, the 7 heads that it's talking about are the 7 kingdoms that spawned from Rome. Or the kingdoms of Esau, because remember, this is Edomite rule. So you had who? The Greeks, you had the Romans, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, and the Russians. Y'all see what's going on?
Come.
So and then from where? From then out of Britain or what have you comes America. So when it says, then there was a little horn, now read verse 8.
Verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of men, and a mouth speaking great things.
And a mouth speaking great things. Remember that, because when you read in Revelation 17, it talks about this other beast that comes out of the fourth beast, which is the beast that's going to be the strongest of them all. Now, what kingdom is the strongest on the planet today?
So-called Caucasian kingdoms.
But what name? What country?
America.
America. America is, of course, Caucasian, comes from Britain, comes from the horn, comes from the same beast. But America is the one that's going to be even stronger than them. Man. Its military went into a whole nother level. Its scientific inventions and science and what have you, in its abilities, have succeeded and surpassed these nations and those that its predecessors previously had as well. You see what I'm saying? So bottom line is showing you that the dragon that it's talking about is who? The nation of Esau, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Let's go back to Revelations 12.
You got it.
Yeah. From what verse, Elder?
Revelations 12, and let's pick up at verse 4.
This is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth.
So we just read about that, how he would stomp the residue with the feet of it. So this is Esau's torturing and destruction to the children of Israel. Okay, I'll read on.
And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
And that was Herod of the Roman Empire to stand before Christ to destroy him as soon as he was born. But it didn't stop there. They continued on, and they continued to afflict and torture the Israelites. Has it stopped?
Nope.
Hasn't stopped. Still going on. Read on.
Verse 5. And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations with the
which
rod
was
of
Christ. Iron. That's right. Read.
And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne.
So Christ is caught up to God and his throne. Remember, Christ sits on the right hand of the throne of the Most High. Okay, all things was given unto Christ. Christ is the King of Israel. He's under the Most High. He's over us. You understand? Read on.
Right. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
That's dealing with the 350 years from when Israel would be brought to America. Okay, that's another topic we're going to have to go into. I don't want to divert away into that, but we're going to have to go into that time frame too. Okay. So that's a period of time when all Israel will be oppressed together. Okay. Remember, that time started in when? The late 1500s. And they would be oppressed in Egypt for what? 400 years.
Yeah.
We're in that time frame right now. That's how we know we're in the last days.
God.
Because remember, it said all Israel will be oppressed together. So now notice that from all these different places, the 10 tribes had already came to the Americas and the Caribbean islands and Puerto Rico and all these areas, right? And they occupied and set up kingdoms and set up civilizations, the Mayan civilization, the different the Aztec civilizations, the different Indian tribes that had set up, and they were thriving. And then what happened? Here comes one of the heads, Spain and France
Yeah.
and Britain, to do what? Started to slaughter the tribes, stomp the residue with the feet of them.
Mm.
His tail drew the third part of the star. You see what's going on? The same head, the same beast.
Mm.
Then what happens? Rome, another head, afflicts the remaining Jews that were in Jerusalem, 70 AD, prime example, with great slaughter, causing them to flee. Many of them fled into the interiors of Africa, was in Africa for almost 1,500 years, right? So then we fast forward to the 15th century, the 1500s, 1600s, and what happened? Here comes the Dutch, here comes Britain again,
Mm-hmm.
taking the Israelites that were on the western portion to bring to America, subduing the same head, the same beast.
Right.
Mm. That's cold.
Do y'all see that?
Hey, Elder.
Afflicting the same people.
Hey, and Elder, can I just point this one thing out?
For sure, go ahead.
Which I know you're gonna get to, but I get excited with lessons like this. So the funny thing is that since the time of the Greeks until now, there's only been one race of people that has had world dominion until there was a set time period.
That's right.
I know you're gonna get into.
That's right. That's right. And this is the whole thing. Why you read about these two kingdoms. You read about the woman clothed with the sun, which is Israel. Then you read about the dragon, the red dragon, which is Edom. So it's showing you the conflict that these two nations would have. Mm-hmm. Whenever you look up and you look at the affliction of the Israelites, the Negroes, the Hispanics, look at who their oppressor is.
Mm-hmm.
Always an Edomite. Be it American, be it from America's predecessor, which is Britain, be it France, be it Portugal, be it Spain. Mm-hmm. All the same dragon, and these are the heads of this beast. Mm. Y'all see that?
God.
So when it says Israel's oppressed together, think about it. This is how detailed the Most High is too. Because at the same exact time, in different places of the world, our nation was being conquered at the same time.
The same time.
The Spaniards and the French were coming into the Caribbean at that time, conquering the 10 tribes. Mm-hmm. While the British were going into Africa to get the remaining tribes to transport them into America to be with their brethren, or the majority of them rather, because Israel scattered throughout the four corners. But America will be a place where Israel would be as a signature for a lot of the prophecies to be fulfilled. You see that? So this is what's going on. So he said that he fled into a place. Now read verse 7.
Come, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought his angels. And prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. See that? So now it's showing you that he fast forwards a little bit to a glimpse of what's going to happen. Michael is the archangel of war. Okay, you can read about him in Daniel 12 as well. So it says, remember, Michael, the prince that standeth for the children of thy people. Michael is our protector, protecting angel. So he's going to fight against these powers. Yeah. You see what's going on? And it says, but the Esau prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Is it talking about the heavenly realm with the Most High, or is it talking about their heaven on earth? Their heaven on earth. Ain't no conflict in the Most High's realm. That's right. That stuff is played out. The powers and kingdoms coming up and coming out, that plays out on the earth. That is not in the Most High's realm. The Most High's realm is about order. Nothing's overtaking him in his kingdom. Right. So when it says they fought, meaning there's going to be a warfare that's going to happen, and it's going to involve
Esau primarily because remember, he's the nation that's in control of everything.
Mm-hmm.
He controls America. He controls Europe. He controls Africa. He controls a great portion of the Middle East and great parts of Asia.
Mm.
Y'all see? You see what I'm saying?
Con. There's no other world power besides him.
Man, and that's how it goes. So let's flip over. Now let's read on. Continue. So it says, and the place was found no more in heaven. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world.
Who's out deceiving the whole world? Lying. Disannulling the creation and bringing in a Big Bang theory and his so-called quantum physics and all this other mess to try to eliminate the creation that the Most High made.
Right.
Telling you that Christ, the Son of the Most High, is a white man. All the biblical figures and the biblical characters and people and the Jews are what? Caucasian. Saying we're not the children of God, but that we're something else. Saying he's always conquered these areas in America and Europe and played. No, he stole all those lands.
Right.
He deceived the whole world. He's the only people going out doing that. You don't see that from the other nations.
Mm-mm. Nope.
But it gets deeper. Read on.
God. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
So he's cast out his angels, meaning all of those that follow him are his angels. It's not talking about spiritual beings and demons, it's talking about people. So him, his rulers, all those that deal and want to be aligned with them and allies with them, they're going to be cast out. Their kingdom is coming to an end because remember, Christ is set to rule all kingdoms, all dominions. They're going to be taken out of that power. So let's flip over. And let's go to 20 now. Now it's going to be clear for you.
Okay. And man, it's that quick and straight to the point. What you want? 7?
Let's pick it up and let's reverse. Let's start at verse 1 again.
Okay, come.
Revelations 20 and 1.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand.
So he's coming down to tie something up, to incarcerate. Okay, go ahead.
And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
So now, who is that dragon or that old serpent called the devil and Satan? We just read about it. Who is it?
Esau.
It's the so-called white man.
Come.
Now, remember, America hadn't been yet during the time of John. France, Spain, Britain, those countries had not yet grew into what they later became. But Rome, remember, they all stem from that one red dragon. Rome was that at the time was the chief head.
Yep.
Until the other heads came up. And then power continued to spread throughout the world, but it's still the same beast. But now, when was Esau bound for 1,000 years? Is it in the kingdom? Very easy. It was when the Roman Empire fell. It was when the Roman Empire fell in about 476 AD. Okay. And it fell. If you look up a time frame, and here you could Google this, you can look up the time frame known as the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages, or the Byzantine time. And why are these things? Why is it called the Byzantine, Middle, Dark Ages? Because this is a time when Esau was no longer in rulership. He was bound. And you look at it, the time frame is 1,000 years. It went from about the 4th century AD all the way up until the 15th century, 16th century AD.
You right on the money, Elder. I was looking at it right now.
And I invite all brothers and sisters that's online, look up the time frame. Anyone, Byzantine, what was the time period of the Byzantine Empire? What was the time period of the Middle Ages? What was the time period of the Dark Ages? And it's going to give you that like 900 something around there to 1,000 years. Y'all see
Con,
that?
yeah.
Now, so when you see that, but why is it saying he was bound? Because remember, that's when they started to flee into the caves.
Mm.
That's where the term Caucasian comes from. Remember, when Rome fell, remember, Rome was divided into East and West, and all the internal conflict and what have you took them down. That's when you had people like Septimius Severus standing up, which were Israelites, which were people of color, that overtook and started to take control of Rome. Constantine set up a tetrarchy, and you had his generals that were in there: Maximian, Diocletian, all of these different rulers that were actually in control. These were your Negroes, dark-skinned people ruling areas of Europe. Your Anglo-Saxons, all the British nobility at that time, from the time of the fall of Rome up to the Renaissance. That's why it's called the renewing, the rebirth, Renaissance. That 1,000-year frame was all controlled by so-called Israelites or Negroes or people of color.
Mm.
This is a fact. That's why when you look up a lot of the artwork, especially the religious artwork, you're going to see they were black-skinned people, right?
Con.
Why so if whites was ruling? Because they weren't ruling. They were depicting it like it was, like the Bible says it was.
Yeah.
You understand? So that's a frame that you guys, a period of time I want you guys to look at and check out. Now watch this. Let's read on.
Con. And then also too, Elder, I don't know if you're gonna touch on it, but key fact that during that time, the Israelites that were in the time of Africa at that time were actually ruling with the Moors.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So we
Absolutely.
we were back, you know, I'm not saying we had super dominion, but we were of nobility
Oh, for sure.
at the time. And if you go into the history of the natives over in this land, that's what's at their height too. The Mayans, the Incas.
And that's how you had chief rulership.
Yep.
Because the tribes that were over here were thriving and had kingdoms and kings and rulership set up, as well as in areas of Europe.
Yep.
You
and
understand?
as soon as he came back, all of us fell.
And now watch this. Let's read verse 3 again.
Okay, Con. Revelations chapter, you said
20 and 3. So it said he bound him 1,000 years. That bounding, that meant he would be restricted. He couldn't do something. We're gonna see what happens. Read on.
Elder, I'm sorry. And then can I just share my screen just so I can show that?
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to just show it real quick. I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay, boom. I just want to, just so everybody can see. This is mind you, this is all roughly, right? So it says historians assign names to each of the periods of history under this. The period from 400 to 14,000 years, 1400, Salakia. From 400 to 1400 years is often called the Dark Ages. So what is that? Roughly, that's 1,000 years, correct, Elder?
Absolutely.
400 to 14. This is the time
That's
period.
exactly 1,000 years.
give or take, right? Give or take.
Right. Estimate, give or take.
Yeah. So basically 400 to 1400 years is called the Dark Ages. That was literally 1,000 years. You cannot make this history up.
Man,
you cannot make this history up.
Now keep that 1400s in mind too. I want everybody to store that. Okay, store that 1400s, because remember, that was around the time of what happened. The Renaissance started to come out. You understand? Now, what happened during the time of the Renaissance? That's when Esau started to get his power back. But now here's the thing. Let's continue reading. Verse 3.
Con. Stop sharing my screen. Con. Okay. Verse 3. And cast him into the bottomless pit.
The bottomless pit is dealing with the areas of Europe. Okay, go ahead. So it's not talking about hell. It's not talking about something else. It's dealing with that part of Europe. Okay, go ahead.
And shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season.
Now, so again, if this is talking about the nations, Christ conquering them, He's going to be shut up. He can't deceive. Then after the 1,000, he's going to go out and rule again. And no, that's not what's going to happen. So what it's showing you is that where is Esau to even be named during that 1,000-year period? Do you read about any affliction of Esau with the Israelites?
Not during that time.
No, because he wasn't around.
Yeah.
His power was minimal. The ones that were scattered out, he had no power. He was in subjection. So you don't read about atrocities going on in that 1,000-year period because he was shut up. He wasn't conquering nobody. So when you read about the Anglo-Saxons, the Vandals, I can't, it just slipped my mind. It's tons of them. But even when you go back and look at the different kings, Alcestis, all the way up to King James, these are rulers. These are your nobility that were people of color. His father, Lord Darnley. These are the people that you see what's going on.
And we're fighting against.
There's that basic book you could get. What is it called? Nature Knows No Color Lines.
Yes, yes.
That goes and shows all the different things that about that. I have it upstairs, but do you have it with you?
I got it. You know what? I left it in my my room. I got it though, but I left it in my room.
But I believe the author is J.A. Rogers, I believe.
J.A. Rogers, yeah.
J.A. Rogers, called Nature Knows No Color Lines, and it shows all of the so-called black or melanated kings and rulers all throughout Europe, Scotland, Germany, you know, all these different places where you would think these were Edomites, but they weren't. So that's why when you go and look at a lot of Russian art, you see that it's so-called blacks on this art. They're dark skinned. When you go into look at Germany, you look in these areas of the catacombs and places like that, you see so-called dark skinned people. You see what I mean? Because at this time, Esau wasn't doing no conquering. Israel was thriving. The tribes that were in the Americas were thriving. That's why he said that he would set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. They weren't able to do nothing. But here's another thing that we got to deal with. Now, this is where people get confused. Let's read verse 4.
Okay, come on. Verse 4.
But it said, I'm sorry, in verse 3, it said, after that, he will be loosed a little season. So after the 1,000 years, then we know Esau is going to come out. He's going to be loose to go out and do what he does best, which is deceive, rape, and murder the Israelites. Okay, read on.
Verse 4, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were
now this right here we got to deal with, because this is going where you're seeing some prophecy, and you're also seeing what John is seeing in this vision. Remember, John at this time, it hadn't happened yet. You understand? Remember that the fall of Rome and all of that, the 1,000 year hadn't happened yet. It to us is history. To John at this time is prophecy.
Yes.
You understand? So don't get confused when you start to see and judgment was given to them and all of this, because John is showing you a period of time that's going to happen. That's important and crucial to our understanding and our fulfilling and coming into the commandments of the Most High. Okay. So we see who the beast is. It showed you that all these four kingdoms had to come into power. Then the next kingdom will be the kingdom of Christ. Before the kingdom of Christ, Esau is going to be bound 1,000 years where he's not going to be able to conquer and destroy or do anything. He's going to be shut up and shut down for that period of time. That time in history was known as the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, or look up the Byzantine Empire, because this is the time when actual so-called Negroes ruled Rome, known as the Holy Roman Empire or the Byzantine Roman Empire. Okay, so Rome that the Edomites had got overthrown and was taken over by Negroes. So when you see Constantine, who was the head and leader of Rome, so-called dark man, his tetrarchy he set up, and his generals and those kings that ruled out of there, so-called Negroes.
Yep.
You see how it's happening?
Come.
Esau wasn't deceiving nothing. In fact, why is this time period even more important is because what was going on with the Bible during this 1,000 years?
Man, you got to bring that out.
Because this is crucial.
Yeah, it just so happened that around the time where Esau was coming out of his 1,000 years, the Most High said, "Okay, before I fully loose him, I need a translation translated."
Man, do y'all see that? Because now here's another fun fact that I want y'all to look up because it's going to tell you. Keep reading verse 4.
Con. Salakia, let me.
And I saw the thrones.
Okay. And I saw the thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. They lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years.
Now, they lived and reigned with Christ. So what John is seeing, remember, it's prophecy in his time. To us, it's history. You understand? Because it already we lived after the 1,000-year period. But John is seeing a lot going on. So at one point in time, when you read in the book of Acts, let's go to Acts chapter 4. Let me give you an example of what's happening.
Okay.
Acts chapter 4, let's read verse 18.
And you know why he's getting that too? This makes me think of the mark of the beast, because it was a question that a brother asked me, and he asked me, is the mark of the beast now, or has the mark of the beast been here?
It's been here.
According to this Revelations 20, it's been here, because this is
been
during
here.
the time of the Dark Ages when it was getting a mark.
It's been here.
God.
It's been here. Acts 4, and let's read verse 18.
God, this is Acts chapter 4 and verse 18.
Now, this was a law. And remember, the apostle Paul used to imprison people, put them to death for doing this. Watch this, read.
And they called them and commanded them not to speak at all nor teach in the name of Yahushua.
It was unlawful. Now, this is when the Edomites controlled Rome. You could not speak in the name of Christ. You could not teach the word. And so much, it was against the law. That's why John was beheaded. That's why a lot of the apostles, Stephen was stoned. A lot of the apostles were put to death. They were put in. How many times was Paul put in jail?
Man.
When you read the book of Acts.
Often.
Or the epistles. It was illegal. But now, here's the thing. It said they shall live and reign with Christ 1,000 years. Why is that crucial? Did that mean that they would be in heaven? No. It meant that they would have this for 1,000 years without being interrupted, because all the translations, your Masoretic text came in this 1,000 years. All your Bishop's Bible, your Geneva Bible, the tens, all of these ones that people are looking at, where the Great Bible and all the translations of the different codices that we use, where the translations come from, was developed and accumulated in that time frame of 1,000 years.
Christian art.
But here's another one.
Yeah.
Now notice what it just said. You cannot teach in the name of Christ, right? Everybody hit Google, put up main religion during Dark Ages, main religion during Middle Ages, main religion during Byzantine Empire. Watch this.
I'm putting it up right now.
Okay.
Man,
What does it say?
I'm about to show y'all right now.
It doesn't even matter which one you go to. I'm
you can look
on that. It doesn't even matter which one. What is it?
It popped up.
Off the top. What is it?
Christianity in the Dark Ages.
Christianity reigned supreme. But wait, when the Edomites controlled Rome, you couldn't speak that. You couldn't be called a Christian. It was illegal. You was put to death for that. Let me give you another scripture. Go back to Acts. Let's flip over to chapter 5.
Wow. That fun fact, this time was also known as the time of Christendom.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Dark Ages was known at the time of Christendom. Go ahead, Ak, you got it.
Acts 5, and let's get 28.
Come, this is Acts chapter 5 and verse 28, saying, did not we straightly command you that ye should not teach in this name? So
they were arresting them and afflicting these apostles for teaching in the name of Christ. And they came and you said, did we not straightway tell you not to teach in this name?
God.
So showing you that to teach the Bible, to teach the scriptures, or to be called a... Now remember, what is a Christian? Is one that taught the doctrine of Christ. So now how the heck in that 1,000 years do we get Christianity as a chief religion?
Can't make this up.
Do y'all understand what's happening?
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? Now, that was what? Christianity during the Dark Ages?
Yep.
Look up religion during Byzantine Empire. Because all of these are the same time for periods.
Oh, BY Salak, yeah.
BYZ ANTINE.
Right, same thing.
Christianity.
Christianity, yeah.
So now it makes sense that all the icons, when you start to look up Moses and you see in that what's called as Middle Age art, what color do they show them?
They was all black.
Right, and then during the Renaissance, when Esau started to come after that 1,000 years was over, and he started to come back into power, they started to erase it, and that's where you start getting all the whitewashing of the images, which is known as what? Iconoclast.
Yep.
You see what's going on? So now, why is that important? Is because now when it said, let's go back to Revelations chapter 20. So we see when Esau was in power in Rome, it was illegal to speak in the name of Christ. But when they were able to reign for that 1,000 years with Christ, that meant that they were able to teach the word freely so that the translations can get forth, that the word of Christ can get throughout the world without any hindrance of the so-called white man. Because remember, he's the devil. He's Satan. He's going out to deceive everyone. He doesn't want you to read the Bible. Then it's funny, when he comes into power during the Renaissance, all the doctrines start changing.
Yep.
You notice that?
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep. That's where you get during that time, that's where you get the Protestants came. Right.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And that's where you start getting all the stuff against King James and trying to go in and take the Apocrypha out and see, then he shall be loosed and go out and deceive the nations again. So now doesn't it make sense? Isn't it clear to see how that happened on the earth and it doesn't happen in the kingdom or anything else like that? And how the dates are linking right up. It's showing you 1,000-year period. Right. It's showing you when it said that they shall reign with Christ, meaning that even though these kingdoms were set up, now here's the thing. When it says they ran with Christ, that don't mean they were all righteous.
Right.
Okay, because there was heresies taught, but the point that is making is that Christ was the factor throughout this time.
They reigned with Christ, meaning they used Christ's religion
and the word
power for their reign.
Absolutely. And it was by them allowing that, allowed the translations to come forth.
Yes.
Because had it had been left up to Esau, you thinking he would allow the translation to come forth?
Not at all.
When he made it illegal for you to even speak in the name of Christ? You see, so these are the things that we have to look at as to how this came about. Now, the Christianity that you see during this time is a lot different than modern day Christianity. Mind you. So when you go into the Christianity at that time, there were still laws of morality kept. The Sabbaths were kept until they started to have this National Sunday Law and all this other stuff. But idolatry wasn't practiced. You understand? Very little. But then once the Renaissance came, remember, that's when Esau started to come out. And he's been loose. And then that's when all the mayhem started again. All the plots to destroy the Bible. All the plots to go out. Now, mind you, funny thing, as I told you, remember that 1400 date, right?
Yeah, right here.
So you had the 4th century is when Rome fell. Then you had Esau was out of power, temporarily disabled for that 1,000 years. And in that 1,000 years, all the way up to you had the Bible being translated, the different codices being revealed, all the different translations, the Masoretic text, all the different everybody was reading the Bible is the point. The Bible was the main book of being read at that time. And so much in the 7th century, here comes the Quran. That's mimicking the Bible. In that 1,000-year reign too. You see, that's how Esau wasn't able. That's how Muhammad was also to go out and conquer. Esau wasn't around either like that. So he was able to do his damage. But then when Esau came into power, Islam had to stop. As far as his war campaign, they had to shut down.
Yeah.
Because remember that power that he once had, it came back to him. So he started to shut everything down. So now tell me something that happened in the 14th century that our 10 tribe brothers were very well recognized, because that was the end of his 1,000-year suspension. Now he's coming out, which would be in the 14th century, the 1400s, 1492 and stuff like that. What happened during that time?
That's Columbus.
And what was he doing?
He sailed. He was well, I've read he was looking for the 12 tribes.
Okay.
But he sailed the sea and he found the new world, so called.
And what happened to the 10 tribes that was over here that were
them.
once that had kingdoms set up that were ruling? Yep. What happened to these kingdoms then?
He demolished them.
They got conquered.
Yep, they got conquered.
That's how it goes.
Yep.
And literally right around that time, the Jews that was in Africa started to get transported over here too.
It was getting conquered. Yep. They did. I did some research on King James, and King James was a steward. So I did some research on the steward line.
Yeah.
And Queen Elizabeth and her family line, they completely destroyed the stewards.
Man.
So once they got King James once King James passed and he was, his reign was over, his son Charles Stuart came into power, but they were actually, King James's family was actually fighting against Queen Elizabeth and her family line.
Right.
And so when Charles Stuart was supposed to take power, they kind of overthrew him. They overthrew him. And when they overthrew him, he had to go into hiding and running and things like that. And that's where you get the name Anglican from. Anglican was a term of followers of King James and also to the Jacobites. So and they were fighting against the powers that be today, but of course they lost. But this was all in like the 1400s.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a good point of history too, because at that time, remember, King James was the last king to rule at that particular time frame. So they started to fizzle out, and then Esau started to come back in power, because that's prophesied too. Let's flip over to Revelations 13. So we see that during this 1,000-year period, what was the chief religion that was taught? Christianity. Christianity. And what book is used in Christianity? The Holy Scriptures. So that gave way. So now we can see how the Most High is showing you a time frame where Esau had to be shut down so that this can prevail. We can get the word that we have right now that we can talk about. If it wasn't for that time frame, that wouldn't have happened. You see that? So when it says they ruled with Christ, that's what it's talking about. Okay, because it even tells you most of the nobility were Christians, and they used from the scriptures. That's why King James made it a point to go and translate the scriptures into English, even though there were some translations already made. But King James said, no, I want to get all these different texts that's accurate. And I want the best English translation we're going to get. And that's how he had Cambridge and Oxford University and the best scholars at that time to get the Masoretic text and all the oldest ones in the Septuagint and all of these things, so that he could bring them together and that they can get a decent English version so that the people can actually read it for themselves rather than the churches read it for them. Because that's how religion started to change. King James said, no, everyone should be able to read it. Not them, because they'll be able to teach it to us any way that they choose to. So had it not have been for that time, now you see that Christianity, like even with Constantine made it official. Christianity was the religion of Rome. And you could not deviate from that. Whereas when Esau ruled Rome, it was forbidden. You see the change? In that 1,000 years, the Bible excelled. Christianity grew. Now here comes the Renaissance. Esau's coming back into power. Let's read chapter 13 in Revelations.
From the top.
Yeah. Revelation now 13. Let's read verse 1, because it goes right into it. The same beast. It's always the same beast in Revelations. Esau. Because why is it the same one? Because remember, John sees it as wrong. But Rome had grew to have 7 heads and expand to what we see today. His power today is the fullness of his power. America, Britain, France, Spain, Rome, Greece, all the 7 heads and the 10 horns is what makes up Esau's power of rulership.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he's able to have global control.
That's
why it says, who's able to make war with him? No one can make war. When you controlling the globe,
man,
you're controlling all the continents. Who could make war with you? You see? So Revelations 13:1.
God, this is Revelations 13 from the top.
Yeah.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
So now, is this a different beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, or is it the same one?
Same beast.
Same exact one in Revelations 12, the same one in Revelation 17, same one in Revelations 20, same one in Daniel chapter 7, same one in Daniel chapter 2. It's the same beast. Having 7 heads and 10 horns. And remember, in Daniel, that 4th beast had 10 horns. So it's showing you that 4th beast is the dragon that will grow 7 heads and expand its rulership throughout the earth. You see that? And so then here comes an angel to bound him during that 476 up to the late 1400s. From that time was known as what? The Dark Ages or Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
And when what? Israelites ruled.
Yep.
Esau's power was taken down.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a lot of affliction of the children of Israel at that time. The 10 tribes were thriving in the Americas and throughout the Caribbean.
Yep.
All the way up until the end of that 1,000 years, which began to be known as the Renaissance, which means the renewing. So this is when Esau's now coming back into power, and he's changing up everything, even the artwork, even the biblical scriptures. And then he set out to finish conquering the Jews that he originally set forth to do before he got bound up.
Another prophecy
ever since.
Another prophecy that that you spoke about when it says that he will conquer with the sword around this time too is when the gun was made.
Look at that.
And that's what he used to control the whole world.
And that exactly, especially to take out the 10 tribes.
Yep.
You see,
Yep.
But it goes back to one of the gifts that he had was what? Strong exceedingly with iron teeth.
Mm-hmm.
They make the bomb.
Yeah, that was it.
You see what I mean? So you see, these are all of the warfare that this same beast has been doing since back in Daniel.
Yep.
It's the same man. You can't get away from that. What bomb and engineering and warfare had the Arabs done? Because people think the Edomites is Arabs. They don't control one continent. But how is it that you have one race of people that's controlling all the major power sources of the world?
Right.
That has the most advanced technological warfare, the most advanced technology, period, in medicine and in science.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why all the nations are coming to America to learn and to soak up what America has to give, but then they get poisoned in the same process.
Yeah.
So the 7 beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is the same beast in Revelations 12 and Revelations 20. Read on.
God. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
See that? Now remember, in Daniel chapter 7, it said that he would have a mouth speaking great things. Same beast. What does it mean, a mouth of blasphemy? Because what does it mean to blaspheme? When you speak against the word of the Most High, you speak against the law and the spirit of the Most High.
Yep.
Who's doing that?
Esau.
All day long. There's no God, it's science.
Yep. Damn.
Big Bang Theory, the missing link, evolution. We evolved from monkeys and apes, and we grew up, and man, all of that is blasphemy of the Most High. Teaching you to go against the law. Here's another thing. Hold that. Go to Daniel 7:25.
Man,
it should be crystal clear, right?
I mean, it's at this point, if you don't get it, you just don't want to get it.
Man,
it's at this point, it's man. Daniel, what you say?
7:25. 7:25.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
See that? That's what talking about Esau. He shall speak great words against him. God is white. Christ is white. God does this. God loves everybody. Everybody can be in the kingdom. These are great things that the Bible speaking against what the Bible is saying, what the word of the Most High is saying. Go ahead.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
Wear out the saints, meaning afflict them, persecute them through slavery, through bondage, through his policy, through his lies. Our people are worn out. That's why our people are stressing on drugs, trying to find some way to find some type of peace. Read on.
And think to change times and laws.
See that? And think to change times. Well, who created daylight savings time? Who sets the clock back in the spring and forward in the fall or whatever that they do? Tell you that the new day begins at 12 midnight when the Most High said the day begins when the sun goes down.
Sunday's the seventh day.
They didn't change all times and laws. Yep. Who's saying it's okay and now lawful for a man to be a transgender or a woman to be a trans? You see what I'm saying? Those things was what people was doing in Egypt that the Most High said, of that you shall not do. Right. And gave us a whole law in Leviticus 18 on incest and immorality and all of that. But they come along and say, no, we can do it. God will accept you. It's okay. Don't worry about that. So a mouth speaking great things, great blasphemy. Y'all see that? So let's go back. That's all. Read on.
Think to change times and laws.
Yeah.
They shall be given into his hand until a time, and times, and the dividing of time.
See, that's that 350, that 400 years. We're going to go into that. That might be one of the next other ones we go into.
We're going to go. Yeah.
Because that deals with right now. So, but all of this is setting the stage and the time frame. So now it says that let's go back to Revelations 13 and let's pick up at verse 2. So he said a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns and a mouth speaking great blasphemy. Go ahead.
God, Revelation chapter 13 and verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Because
remember, the leopard is the first kingdom of Esau that came into power, which was the Greeks. When you go back into Daniel chapter 7, it said that one beast was like a leopard, right? Uh-huh. And showing you the swiftness of how they took over. Read on.
And his feet were as the feet of a bear.
Strong, ferocious. Go ahead.
And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So now, it said the dragon is called also the devil and Satan, right? Mm-hmm. So who does this beast listen to, the Most High or Satan?
Satan.
That's why I said, and Satan gave him his power and great authority. Well, what does that mean? That means that from the beginning, remember, when Isaac told when Isaac told Esau, by the sword shalt thou live, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion and break thy brother's yoke from thy neck. But he would be ruling according to who? Satan. Remember what Satan told Cain, or what the Most High told Cain when he said, why are you upset? What are you mad about, Cain? If you do well, won't you be accepted? But if you do not well, then sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over. Meaning that if you don't choose to do well and keep the laws of the Most High, then you choose to obey Satan, and Satan will be your leader now. Satan will be your ruler. So when it says the dragon, which is Satan, that gave the beast his power, meaning all his power comes from Satan. How do we verify that? Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 4.
I was reading that.
So we're gonna move a little quick so we can get through. We're almost hitting that 2 hour, huh?
Yeah.
You know, I always say it, but we almost finished though. We're almost
burning the midnight oil. Nah, it's all good. And then real quick, while I'm getting at Matthew, so we touched on this earlier, Elder. Somebody said, I know you can't see the comments. Somebody said, so my only question would be this: will there be a second coming of Yahweh Shai? I always thought the 1,000 years would be when Christ actually comes back a second time. No, we touched that already. Christ is not coming back literally for the 1,000 years. The 1,000-year reign is a period where Esau was bound for 1,000 years during the time of the Dark Ages. Christ is not coming back 2 times. Remember, the 1,000 years has to be a period of 1,000 years, and then after the 1,000 years, Satan has to be loosed again. So for you to say Christ, and this is no disrespect to the brother, but just for clarity, right, for you to say Christ is coming for the 1,000 years, that's you saying Christ is going to come back physically, reign, and then Satan's going to come back and deceive. We don't see that nowhere in the text
at all.
Christ is not coming back twice. He's not coming back ruling, then say, all right, guys, I'll see y'all later, leaving. That doesn't make any sense. His kingdom, Christ, and the elder broke this down earlier. You might have to go back. Christ's kingdom is going to last forever. It's not going to stop when he comes back.
That's right.
This 1,000 years is a time frame that the elder is speaking into. No, we're not in the 1,000 years now. The 1,000 years has already passed. The 1,000 years was the dark ages. We're in the time of the returning of the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns.
Right.
That's the time period we're in now.
That's right. And as we read, the beast, he shall be loosed a little season. So that's the time frame. Good. Thank you for clearing that up, brother.
Yeah.
Matthew. So again, the dragon gives him his authority. So let's get that with Christ in Matthew chapter 4, and let's read verse 7. Okay. So this is when Satan, the spiritual Satan, comes to tempt Christ. Okay, let's read that in 6 and 7. I'm gonna move a little quick so we can get finished up in 20.
Got you. Matthew chapter 4, verse 7. Yahushua said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God.
Read on.
Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them.
So showing you, he takes Christ up to the mountain and shows him all the glory and kingdoms of the world. Watch this, read.
And saith unto him, all these things will I give thee if thou wilt fall down and worship me.
So what is that showing you? That who has control over the world?
Satan.
Satan, because the earth has been given into the hand of the what?
The wicked.
Of the wicked. Job 9:24 told us that clearly. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. Now, when it says the dragon gave him his seat and his authority, showing you that now, in order for Esau to have that dominion, what does he do? He serves Satan. That's why all his mind is only occupied in evil, destroying the children of Israel, blaspheming in the name of the Most High, misleading everyone, trying to destroy the Bible, trying to misteach the Bible. Since the Bible's already out there, he can't stop that. Mm-hmm. But what he can do now is try to alter the way it's taught. Mm. That's where he brings in his religion and his system and misleads everybody through that. Again, he shall go out to deceive the nations again. Y'all see that? And now that's what he's doing. That 1,000 years where he was shut up and bound, that expired. That expired in the 14th century. Now he's been loosed again to go out and deceive the nations as he was prophesied to do. So he returned to do that. And that's the time frame we're living in right now, why he's deceiving the nations again for that little season. Does that make sense?
Make perfect sense.
Okay, so now we see that Satan has that power. He gave it to the beast, which is Esau. Let's go back to Revelations 13. And let's continue where we have. So it says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were like unto a bear, and his mouth is a mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So the beast, being Esau, the Edomite, the so-called white man, gets his authority and his seat from Satan. Yeah. The Most High gave Satan that power to give to him, and that's why he rules in a satanic way. Okay, evil and deception. Read on, verse 4 or verse 3. I'm sorry.
God, Revelation chapter 13 and verse 3.
Read on.
And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death.
Now this goes back to Revelations 20 when he was bound. What head got wounded? Rome. That was the head that got wounded in the 4th century, as it was wounded to death, meaning it was wounded as though it was going to die.
Man,
do y'all see that? But it was only what we read, that the understanding in Revelations 20 is that he was only bound for 1,000 years. So that head was wounded. And the beast was disabled at that time. Okay, read on. Watch this.
God, and his deadly wound was healed.
See, and his deadly wound was healed now. So it got wounded when? In the 4th century AD, with the fall of Rome. When did it get healed? In the Renaissance. In the 14th century, literally 1,000 years. That's the 1,000 years in which he was bound, in which he was shut up, not to go out to do anything. But once the 1,000 years are fulfilled, what will happen? He will go back out to deceive the nations again. Y'all see that? So his deadly wound is healed. Read on.
God, and all the world wander after the beast.
And all the world wandered after the beast, checking him out, following him. Read on.
Verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast.
So now, because if you follow America, you follow the so-called white man, any of his kingdoms, you automatically by default start following Satan because that's who he follows. That's why all the wickedness that you see in America or in the world is partaking in his kingdom. Everything that you see that was done in Egypt is done in America. Everything that was done in Sodom and Gomorrah that you read is done here in his kingdoms. And it's allowed. But righteousness is frowned upon. Isn't that funny?
Wow.
When our people were teaching the Bible, we was beheaded and put in prison. But you could gangbang and you could do everything and do drugs and all kind of stuff and without any problem.
God.
Now, notice this, even brothers and sisters that's coming into this truth, when you were doing wickedness and everything, everybody loved you. When you started reading the Bible, they think you're tripping.
Think you crazy.
Ain't that, but that just shows you how satanically influenced our people's mind has become. You start literally straightening up and following laws that's written in the Bible that your mom and grandparents wanted you to read. Now you're following it. They think you're crazy. They think something's wrong with you. You in a cult. Oh, what you doing? What you doing with them fringes on? What's that? Well, you don't eat pork now? Ain't nothing wrong with that. Blah, 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 blah. It's funny, right? Because
Damn, that's crazy, man.
righteousness would only be frowned upon in a world of wickedness.
Man, where righteousness is looked at as strange.
Absolutely. And that's why he says he shall speak great things against the Most High. Showing you where his mind frame is towards the Most High. He hates the Most High. Remember, what did it say in Job 27? Who is the Almighty that we should serve him? Depart from us. We don't desire the knowledge of your ways. This is what they say to the Most High. I'm sorry, it's Job chapter 24. But so now it says that the whole world is following after him and worshiping the beast. Go ahead.
God. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Verse 5.
So who's able to make war with him? Who can make war? Who can defeat the so-called white man? What nation on the earth can defeat him and his 7 heads and 10 horns?
Nobody.
China? Because if they could, they would have done it. Because the whole world hates this man. Remember, it says in Isaiah, when he falls, the whole world's going to clap their hands. Like, is this the man that made the earth to tremble?
Tremble.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Can I ask you a sidebar? Real quick. Who do you think is going to destroy America? Do you
Christ.
Okay.
Well, we know without a doubt.
Yeah, of course.
You can read that in Isaiah chapter 6. I tell you what, let's go there real quick.
Okay, come.
Because this also is going to clear up the fact that he can't be loose after Christ takes control. Because
some teach that Russia's going to do it. Some teach that
there's going to be chaos in his kingdom because they've already, remember, it said the pride of his heart has deceived thee when you read Obadiah.
Yeah.
So they're going to have internal conflict just like they did in Rome. That's what brought Rome's downfall in the first place.
Right.
Because of their high-mindedness. Well, Esau's going through the same thing now. That's why you see the controversy with Russia and the U.S. and all the world wars. Those things were fought also as key points. World War I, World War II. All of those things were fought as actual time frames too of how he got his power and became into rulership. Get Isaiah chapter 63.
Isaiah verse 1.
63 and 1. Read that.
Isaiah chapter 63 verse 1. Who is this that cometh from Edom with
Edom in specific? From Edom, his 7 heads of sin, or wherever Edom is, the so-called white man. Who is this that cometh from Edom? Go ahead.
With dyed garments from Basra.
Read.
This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save.
Who's mighty to save? Who's going to save Israel from their sins?
Yahushua.
So now he says, who is this coming from Basra with dyed garments? Well, we're going to see what these dyed garments look like. Read on.
Wherefore art thou red in thy apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine vat.
So it said Christ was coming from Edom, and his whole garment. Remember, it said he had on a garment down to the foot, right?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Now this garment is dyed red, like he was treading wine press, like he was making wine, smashing grapes.
Right.
So his whole garment was red, but was his blood, was this wine or was his blood?
Blood.
It was blood, but the blood of who in particular?
Edom.
Edom. So this is what Christ is going to go do with his army. And remember, Israel is going to have some of that too, because it said, I will lay hand. Remember in Ezekiel 26, I will lay hold on Esau with the hand by the hand of my people Israel.
Yeah.
So Israel is going to play a fight in that battle, play a part in that battle too. So read on verse 3.
Verse 3, I have tread in the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. And I will tread them in my anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment.
Read on.
And the year of my redeemed.
Verse 4.
Verse 4. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come.
See that? And so who's going to take down Esau?
Yahushai.
So yeah, not going to be Russia. It's not going to be Christ is going to do that. They're going to try to fight against Christ. So they're going to try to launch their missiles and all this other stuff. That ain't going to work. It's not going to work. Remember, they're not going down without a fight. You understand? That's why I said Michael and his angels fought and Satan and his angels fought. So there has to be a battle, because again, that's how the Most High is going to make them submit. Because when people see that the chief is down, what are all the other nations going to do?
They're gonna scatter.
Think about it. Here's someone bullying you in school. Here's the big bully, right? You defeat the bully. How's everybody else? They're gonna respect you. They're gonna look at you and say, "Oh, that's the man."
Yeah.
He took down the main enemy. He took down the biggest one. So if he took down them, it's nothing for him to do that to us.
And doesn't it say that in Revelations that they're gonna cry or be sorrowful to see America destroyed, the other nations? I might be paraphrasing.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure which one you're talking about on that one.
Yeah, let me see. But yeah, go ahead, Elder. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's cool. So now we see that the beast had a wound. One of his heads was wounded, and then his deadly wound was healed. Y'all see that? So let's flip up. Let's shoot back up to Revelations 20. Now let's solidify it now.
It's Revelations 18 and 11.
Okay.
Yeah, it says, and the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her.
Right, because now they're not making that money.
Yeah.
Remember, all the nations come to America to take of its abundance and its merchants and all of its, prosperity. You understand? So once that's taken away, they have nothing else. Yeah. So we're going to shoot back to Revelations 20, and we're going to lay down. Let's just read through it. Let's start at verse 2 again. I just want to go through it, and then we're going to be done with it.
Okay, Con. I'll read it real quick.
So angel came from having a key and a chain, the key of the bottomless pit, the chain in his hand. Verse 2.
Verse 2. It says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and shut him up and bound him. Excuse me, and bound him 1,000 years. Sorry, these words.
And bound him 1,000 years. So we just went over how that 1,000 years is that time from the 4th century up to the 14th century. Is a 1,000-year period known as the Dark Ages, also known as the Byzantine time, also known as the Middle Ages. Okay, read on.
And cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up.
So he was cast down out of his power in the bottomless pit. The bottomless pit represents Europe. Now, one of the chief places that he had to go into was called the Caucasus Mountains. That's where they get the term Caucasian from. Okay, go ahead.
And set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more.
So during that 1,000 years, he won't be no deceiving because he has no power. And instead, you had Israelites, you had people of color ruling all throughout the areas of Europe at that time. Go ahead.
Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled.
Now, after the 1,000 years, read on.
And after that, he must be loosed a little season.
So the 1,000 years going to happen from that 4th century AD up to the 14th century AD. Then after that time, he'll start merging out and coming back into power. Okay, that's why in Revelations 13 it says he saw the beast and one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. So now that time from his head being wounded up to the healing was 1,000 years that we're reading about in this time. So now after that time frame, he goes out to deceive the nations. As we mentioned in the 14th century, what happened? The Spaniards started to come to the Americas. They started to destroy the brothers in the Caribbean, brothers and sisters, the Native American Indians, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Toltec, the Olmec, all in Peru, the Incas, all being destroyed by the same man that's a part of the same beast. Y'all see that? He wasn't doing that in that 1,000-year period, mind you.
God.
But when that 14, then not only did he do that, he went into Europe, took down all the black images, the religious images of black people, and start putting his own, start cutting the nose off the statues, start whitewashing them. And that's why you see him with those halos and those bubbles over their head talking about, well, that's how you identify holy people. No, what they did with that was that gave them a slate to go in and redraw the faces of the people. So they use that bubble to make it like a white bubble or gold bubble. Then they can fill in the faces of them, of actual Caucasian people, to make it look like Caucasians have been in power all the time. That part of it was called iconoclast. Look up iconoclast and you're going to see these Edomites taking all these black images and altering the images. Why would they do that? Because again, he shall go out to deceive the nations. You see that? But who else is doing this? Just him. Read on.
It says verse 4, and I saw thrones and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years.
So what is this talking about? Because what happened was, remember I showed you in Acts chapter 3 and Acts chapter 5, Acts chapter 4 and 5, where it was illegal to speak about the name of Christ. You were beheaded. John the Baptist was beheaded for what? Correcting one of those Roman emperors, right? And so the woman, because they were committing incest, and he said, you can't have your brother's sister, your brother's wife. And she got mad and said, well, put his head into a plate, and I want to cut his head off and put it in a charger.
Man,
you see what I'm saying? So, you know, when you go into all, like Paul the apostle, they were putting, Paul was in jail so many times for teaching the word, it's not even funny. But they were beheaded, they were stoned, they were hung, they were crucified, all for teaching the word of Christ. But during that 1,000-year period, what happened? When they started coming to rulership, Christianity became what? The main religion. All the different translations of the scriptures were being brought about during that time. All the biblical records were being accumulated, all so that we can have the Bible that we have in our hands today. That was important. All the nobility that you read about were what? Looking and reading the Bible, calling themselves Christians. So when it says they shall live and reign with Christ 1,000 years, don't let that trip you up. Some people say, well, wait, if they live with Christ, that meant that they should be all righteous. No, not necessarily. Because remember when it said that Ephraim is turned to idols, but Judah reigneth with God? Was Judah all 100% righteous?
Nope.
No, they weren't. Even in the time of the kings, when we had a kingdom, were they always following the law?
Nope.
But it was still called the kingdom of the Lord. And they still ruled with God. Because somewhat of the scriptures were being applied, not to say it was to being 100%, but in the kingdom of the Most High, it would be 100%. You understand? Read on.
Verse 5. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were fulfilled. Finished. This is the first resurrection.
See, this is where people get confused. And they think like, see, there's going to come back 1,000 years and all Israel's coming back. No, it's telling you a time period. It's saying, listen, Christ is going to come on this earth in the 1st century BC or 1st century AD, somewhere around there. He's going to teach and gather the apostles and restore Israel. Then you're going to have the time of the Acts of the apostles, where they're going to go out through all the earth and teach the gospel. And they're going to suffer many things for the gospel's sake, like Christ said they would. Then there's going to come a time where this dragon is going to be bound, and which he won't be able to deceive and destroy the children of God anymore.
Right.
That happened during that 1,000-year period. So, and after that 1,000-year period is over, the dragon will be loosed again to go out and do what he was originally doing. Okay.
Right.
But now it says, but the dead live not again until 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. So it's showing you that after that time frame of 1,000 years, there's going to be a time where the actual people are going to actually resurrect. Is that talking about a spiritual resurrection or a physical resurrection? Let's find out. Let's flip over to Revelations chapter 5.
You got it. Man.
Let's flip over to Revelations chapter 5. Are y'all with us?
Yeah. You 2 hours and 20 minutes in,
Oh,
Elder.
man, here we go. I'm almost finished, y'all.
Nah, hey, take your time, man. I know. We're gonna for sure have to bring you next Friday. Gonna have to keep going to the prophecies, Elder.
We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. So let's read. Revelation 6 and 9.
Okay. This is Revelation chapter 6 and verse 9.
Uh-huh.
And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God.
See that? So now he said, I saw those under the altar when he opened the fifth seal under the souls of them that were slain for the word of God. So all of those that stood strong and stood firm, he saw there and that died, that may have lost their life for teaching the word of the Lord, they were rewarded. That's why he's seeing them. Okay. So what John is seeing now, he's saying after that 1,000 years, that doesn't mean right after the 1,000 years, all these spirits is going to come out. He's just showing you after that dispensation, there's other events that are going to lead to this. You understand? So you're going to start to see those things that were happening in Acts happen again, where people are going to start losing their lives for the word of the Lord. That has not accepted the mark, that's choosing not to follow Satan, that's going to follow the Most High, and they're going to be persecuted. Okay. Continue.
God. And for the testimony which they held.
Read on.
And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?
So they're in the spiritual realm asking the Most High, how long before you avenge our blood for the people that killed us? Go ahead, watch this.
Verse 11, and white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season.
So he said, see, that lets you know it wasn't time for them to receive their salvation yet and their eternal life that's promised to them. Y'all see what's going on? So it's showing you that 1,000-year frame was not talking about in the kingdom. So those that had died, like in the time of Acts or any other time that's speaking on behalf of the Most High and speaking in truth that may have lost their life, they were told to rest for a little season. Okay, read on.
Until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled.
So that means that there's more people that are going to lose their lives for the gospel of the Most High. You see what I'm saying? So he's showing you that now you had some that had already done that, and that Most High gave them robes and rewarded them and said, but hold up, you can't have the kingdom yet. It's not time, but rest in the spirit and you'll be resurrected. Because remember, what did Daniel 12:1 say? 12:2, I believe. He says, it shall come to pass that many that sleep in the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life and some to everlasting shame and contempt. You see what I'm saying? So that's dealing with the reward of those that have died and lost their lives for the word. Let's shoot back to Revelations 20.
You want verse 7?
Verse 5. Let's pick up verse 5 again.
Verse 5. But the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection.
So the rest of the dead. So now this 1,000 years had expired. Esau's loosed, going throughout the earth. So then, does that not mean that other Israelites are not going to lose their life? Because he just said it in chapter 6. He said that they should rest until their fellow brethren who shall die as they were should be fulfilled. So that means after Satan is loose or Esau is loose to go out and deceive in the world again, that means what's going to happen to the world? It's going to turn evil again. It's going to turn where the blasphemy of the Most High is out there. Eventually, it's going to be a fact, just like it was in ancient Rome, where it's going to be illegal for you to read the scriptures. It's going to be illegal for you to have a biblical church. It's going to be illegal for you, just like even in the time of the Greeks, where it said it was unlawful for a man to even say that he was a Jew. That day is coming back, and people are going to lose their lives. People are going to be put in prison over the gospel. That has to be fulfilled, just like those that happened before the 1,000-year period of Esau and even during. And that should happen again. Now, what does it mean that this is the first resurrection? Let's go to Ezekiel 37. So this part of the resurrection is what's happening now. Our people are waking up.
Okay.
So let's read chapter 37. And I want to really get to the point. Let's read verse 1.
Okay. This is Ezekiel chapter 37 from the top. The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out of the spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry.
So now remember, what did it say? And the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were fulfilled. So after that 1,000-year period, there's going to be another awakening, is what it's saying. That's the awakening we're seeing right now. What is it talking about? That's why Ezekiel's talking about this, where he's seeing these bones of these fossilized, dried up bones of human beings, right? Read on.
Verse 3. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest.
That's why he said, can these bones now live? And the rest of the dead live not again until after the 1,000 years. So it didn't say a day after the 1,000 years. It just meant that 1,000-year period is going to expire. Then it's going to move on to the next stage, which is the awakening of Israel. That's what we're going through now. You understand? Because remember, we're still under the same beast. We're still in the time of that fourth beast. Remember also, what did it say in Revelations? That art thou it that remaineth of the four beasts? I'm sorry, in Ezra. Are thou it that remaineth of the four beasts at the end of their times might come through them?
Yep.
You see what it also say in Ezra chapter 6. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is what?
The beginning
of it that followeth. So now who's in control?
The white man.
Esau. And who's coming up next?
Israel.
Israel, because Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Esau's the end of the world. Y'all see that? So it's showing you that those four kingdoms that we read about had to come into power. Esau's going to rule. He's going to be taken out of power for 1,000 years. He's going to come back into power. His deadly wound is going to be healed. He's going to go back out deceiving, lying, blaspheming, taking over, and they doing exactly what he was doing before. And also, too, before Christ returns, there's going to be an awakening. You understand? Some are going to lose their lives for the gospel. That's what John is seeing. The rest of the dead live not again until after that time period. There's going to be awakening. This is what we're reading about in Ezekiel. So can these dead bones live? Read on.
Verse 4. Again, he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.
Read on.
Thus saith the Lord God unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, ye shall live.
See that? Now say, what did it say? The rest of the dead live not again until after the 1,000 years. It's not talking about Israelites that was wicked coming back. It's talking about a time frame. It's all dealing with a time frame.
It's the dead meaning spiritual.
What's that?
It's spiritually dead.
Right, because where were we before we got the truth?
Dead.
Exactly.
7. Yeah.
So now, but what did we use to receive life? We had to accept the blood of Christ.
Yep. And
you see what I'm saying? That's how we were able to now resurrect. That's why I said, blessed are they that take part in the first resurrection. This is the resurrection because we were once dead. Now, if Christ were to come right and we didn't have this truth, what would our fate be?
Death. Death,
without a doubt. But now that we have this awakening, because now what was Ezekiel being shown? To prophesy on these old dead bones. Then as you continue to read what was going to happen, it said he prophesied unto the bones, and then what? The bones started to tremble and the flesh started to come on them, and they stood up an exceeding great army. So could the dead live now? Is that talking about in the kingdom, or is that talking about right now? When you go out to teach, are you not waking people up and changing them from death and bringing them to life?
Yep.
But when would the Israelites be out teaching? Would it be during that 1,000 years or after the 1,000 years was over?
It would have to be after the 1,000 years was over, right?
That's right, because Esau would have to be loose to go out and afflict the Israelites. So now you have something to teach about.
Now we got to go teach and do Jeremiah, speak against great kingdoms and nations.
That's right. And in that process, what we read about what John saw that happened in the time of the Acts with the apostles is going to happen again. He's going to see those that are going to lose their life for the gospel's sake, but they're also going to be rewarded. You following? So it's not talking about anything in Revelation 20. Let's go back there. So you can read Ezekiel 37 on your own. It just talks about the awakening, how these dead bones would live again. So that's what it means when it says the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Now read verse 6.
Verse 6, blessed and holy is he that hath power in the first resurrection. O such the second death has no power.
So blessed is he that hath part in the first resurrection, for the second death hath no power. Because what is the second death? Let's find out. Let's read verse 14.
Verse 14 and Revelations 21:14 or 20:14. Salakia.
Yeah.
And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death.
So now, why is it saying, blessed are they that have part in the first resurrection, for the second death hath no power? Because if you're resurrected, that means that what? You've been called to life by the adherence of the gospel. And when you apply this, that puts you in the realm of what? Let's read even further. Let's go back, drop up, and let's read verse 12.
Man, this is powerful. Verse 12, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God.
Because at judgment, everybody's coming back now. You understand? Everyone, those that have died, they're going to come back for their final judgment. That's why those that walked and followed the scriptures, what did the Most High say? He said, wait here, rest. He gave them white robes and said, rest a little season until your other brothers be killed as you were should be fulfilled, meaning that there's other things that have to be prophesied or prophecies that have to be fulfilled. Okay. So it said, now he saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. Read.
And the books were opened, and other book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works.
So now the dead, meaning those that are spiritually dead, those that have died and may have, remember, they did righteousness and they lost their lives. Well, the Most High is going to reward them. Some did evil and died. Well, they got to be paid with the final ultimate death. That's why it says the second death. There's two deaths. You got the physical death, then you got that spiritual death, which is the lake of fire. Now, if you partake of the first resurrection, now you're being what? That's why Christ said you're being born again. It all makes sense now, right? Because Nicodemus said, well, can I go into my mother's womb and come out again? Yeah. He said, no, I mean, you got to be spiritually born again. That means that you're going to have to be, that's that resurrection right there, where you put off that old man. Yeah. And now you make that change through repentance to where now your mind frame is on the mind of Christ. So now if Christ were to judge you and open these books, every man is going to be judged according to his works. If your works are good, what do you receive? Life. Eternal life in the kingdom. But if your works are evil and you're not found written in the book of life, what happens? You put in a lake of fire, which is the second death. Makes sense, right? Yes, so now, is any of this talking about the 2/3 is coming back and and Esau is going to be taken? Satan's got to be bound and he's going to be. No, it's a chronological time frame. It's showing you all these things that's going to happen. Israel's going to have a king. I'm going to go all the way back to the time of our king. Israel would have a succession of kings. In the time of Babylon, that kingship, as prophesied, would be suspended. Jeconiah was that last king. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
And then what would happen? Then we would have, even though Judah would be there, we wouldn't have a kingdom anymore. We would not have a dynasty of kings anymore of Judah.
Con.
That's why Christ said, "This is not my kingdom." Even though he was the king of the Jews, he never claimed the throne.
Right.
You understand? So then Christ taught his apostles. They went throughout the earth and spread the gospel of Christ. They were getting persecuted, put to death, put in prison, afflicted for this. For years, for all the first 3 and 4 centuries, they were being put to death for that. It was illegal to speak on the name of Christ.
And those are the ones that were the white robes were given to.
Absolutely, losing their lives for that.
Yes.
Then what happened? Satan was bound, which was Esau, the so-called white man. Rome fell. That particular head fell, was wounded, was suspended for 1,000 years. In that time frame, Israelites ruled. Kings set up. Christianity, the gospel prevailed. It was being manufactured. It was being put in all the churches, all the chief countries, the nobility, everything was reading according to the Bible. Everything, all the records was being accumulated. The Bibles, the older records were being brought forth and brought up to where we can have the Bible today. That 1,000 years ended. What happened? Esau went back out. His deadly wound was healed. He began to emerge back into power. He began to take over other countries again through Catholicism. He changed Christianity into what you see it today, which is paganism and full of wickedness. Nothing, the original Christianity is this. And then what happened? It began to change form into what you see today that our people are following, the watered down mess of foolishness. That's what our people are following now. That's called Christianity. Okay. But it still gives us the opportunity to read this. Now we're able to go in through the spirit that the Most High will pour upon his people during the awakening after that 1,200 years was expired. Now we're seeing our people are awakened. Those dried up bones are living now. We used to be those dried up bones, right?
Yep.
Every person you talk to and they start to wake up, that was a dried bone, dead bone that you now resurrected. You see? And then what happens? There's going to be warfare. There's going to be that fight between Christ and the rulership, that they're going to try to fight for their position, but they're going to lose. And then once that happens, what's going to go on? Then now all the books are going to be open and everyone's going to receive that final judgment. That final judgment. Real quick, go to Daniel chapter 12 and get verse 1. Does it make sense? Does it make sense, y'all? Is it simple?
Put ones in the chat if you understand exactly what the elder is saying in this lesson. Put ones in the chat if you understand exactly what the elder is speaking about in this lesson. Put ones in the chat. Let's see how many ones we get.
So 12 and 1.
Let's see. Hold on 1 second, Salakia. Daniel chapter 12. Salakia. You was already there, huh? You could have got it.
Daniel 12 and 1.
12 and 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Man,
y'all see that? So it said, now remember, we read in Revelations 12 that Michael fought with his angels and Satan fought with his angels. So this is that warfare that's going to happen. He said there shall be a time of trouble that has never been on the earth since a nation was created.
Man.
That's how deep and how crazy it's going to be. That's how much destruction that you're going to see. So you add up all the wars that's been fought, put them together, you ain't going to see nothing like this.
That's scary.
But continue on.
Okay, Khan. It says,
and at that time,
and at that time, thy people shall be delivered.
See, and at that time, our people shall be delivered. So when there's that warfare, that's the deliverance that Israel is going to receive. And that's going to happen after that 1,000 years that Esau is going to be bound. Y'all see that? Okay. So so all John is showing us is a chronological order. That's it. So because the biggest question is this: when will the end come? When will the end come, Lord? The apostles asked the same thing. Said, "What? Show us when shall the tokens of these things be in the end of the world?" And because people think it's been prolonged, they think that nothing's going to ever happen. But there had to be a sequence of things that would go on for us to even understand when we would be in the later times. One thing that had to happen was that first Christ had to come on the earth. He had to bring restoration to Israel. Another thing we read in is Daniel is that those 4 major kingdoms had to come into power. If we were looking for the kingdom in Babylon, we was wrong. If we were looking for it in Greece, we was wrong. We know that according to the scriptures, the end would come when that 4th beast came into power. But we have to read the whole Bible, because after Daniel and Revelations, John saw that beast, that 4th beast, grow into the power that we know today. So in other words, that end would not come until those 7 heads, those 10 horns got established. Then the end wouldn't come until that nation, Esau, was bound up for 1,000 years. So that's another 1,000-year dispensation of time that we have to put under to know that we ain't hit the end yet. Then we reach the 1400, we reach the 14th century. Then we start to see all the atrocities start to happen again to the nation of Israel. All the civilizations in the Western, in this hemisphere, the Northern hemisphere, began to be conquered. The Native American Indians, the Aztec, the Mayans, the Incas, all of those that had civilizations all throughout the Americas and the Caribbean and the islands and all of that, they got conquered by the beast. Be it the head, be it Spain, be it France, be it Portugal, be it Rome, be it Britain. That had to happen. But one thing we do know is that Esau has to be in power when Christ returns. That's why I said Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. That's why when they both were born, Jacob took hold on Esau's heel. Y'all see what's going on? So now, can we say we're in the last days now?
Yep.
Absolutely. That's why we got to go into that 350 years, that time and a half, because that shows you that dispensation of time that would happen while we were oppressed together. We got oppressed together in what? The 1600s, right? Well, we're in 2000. We're 400 years like we were in Egypt.
Was that like 350 with that time?
350, exactly what it's talking about. But the scriptures give us all kind of time frame. Remember, it said even after 2 days. Remember, in what is that? Habakkuk, after 2 days.
Yeah.
Then we shall be revived, and in the 3rd day we shall live in his sight. And that's talking about from what? From the time of Christ. Christ was in that 1st century, like literally like 2 BC. Christ was born.
Dang, yeah, you're gonna have to go into
and it says after 2 days. So 2 days and a day to the Lord is how many years?
1,000 years.
So 2,000 years. Well, we're in that day right now.
That's crazy, man.
So if we look at the beast and how it flourished until being that 4th beast into the powerful kingdom that it is now, we're in that time frame. If we want to take the 400 years of us being in that Egypt, being this modern day Egypt, remember all the tribes were here. Remember the 10 tribes were already here, but the southern kingdom came into the 1600s. So from 1600s up to 2020, that's 400 years. Man. The same time we sojourned it. So we still lined up in the later days. And it said Esau is the end of the world. Jacob's the beginning. Esau would have to be in power. Put those 3 timelines. We're in the last days for sure. So now it makes sense that John only showed us a dispensation from the time of the fall of one of the heads up to the reemerging of one of the heads. Then all he did was say after that happens, everything continues like it'd been in Daniel. There's going to be an awakening. Then there's going to be a warfare. Yeah. Esau has to be taken out of power. Our churches are going to be set up all over, just like in the book of Acts. That's why you have all kind of Israelite churches all over being set up at the same thing is repeating itself. You see what I'm saying? So, but we get caught up when we read, well, the dead live not again, and the 1,000 years they reign with Christ and all of that. But we see what that meant. We see that Christ or the Christian, even though being a religion, original Christianity was what Christ taught. And then they taught from the Bible, the scriptures, the scrolls. And in that 1,000-year period, that was being preserved and gathered. I showed you, Google religion during the Middle Ages. All Christianity popped up right the biggest day.
We did it. We did it.
And the nobility, all of that, they called themselves Christians. Nothing else. They weren't Baha'i faith. They weren't Muslims. They weren't Hindus. They weren't Asiatic. Whatever they want, they were Christians. That's why I said they shall live and reign with Christ 1,000 years. But now, when we're waking up, we're starting to see that Christianity today is not the Christianity that Christ gave us. Yeah. So now we're changing that up to bring back the truth of the scriptures. Now we're being the dead living again now. Y'all see that? And then when you read Revelations 12, when you read the whole thing of 12, it breaks it down. It repeats the whole sequence of everything. It shows you. Hey, all praises to the Most High, man. You know, I just hope everybody understand. But go back, reread. You know, go over that. Look up that history. Get that book, that J.A. Rogers, Nature Knows No Color Lines.
Yeah.
It goes more into it. Look up these kings that ruled during the Dark Ages and watch. You're going to see that Esau wasn't around. Because it doesn't make sense for Christ to come in and take the throne, bring all nations into subjection, and now let Esau run amok and deceive again in his kingdom. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So it's not talking about the dead 2/3 coming back. It's not. All of that is a dispensation of time that's playing out right now on the earth, because we see that the last thing that's going to happen is that everybody's going to eventually be judged, and they're going to be given according to their work. Finish that up in Daniel 12:1.
Daniel chapter 12 verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time.
See, that's how much destruction. Go ahead, watch this.
And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found in the book.
Everyone that is found written in the book. What book is he talking about? The book we just read in Revelations 20. When he said, I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God and before the throne. And the books were open. And another book called the Book of Life. And every man will be judged and awarded according to his works. So if your name was in the Book of Life, what happened? The second death, which is the lake of fire, don't have no power over you. You're going to receive the kingdom and eternal life. But if your name isn't written in the Book of Life, then what happens? You be upon in the lake of fire, which is the second death. You see? So it's not talking about, it's showing you the dispensation of time up until judgment. That's all it's doing. But because when you read, remember, the things that John is seeing in Revelations is prophecy, whereas we're seeing a lot of it is history. You understand? Read on.
Verse 2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake.
So many of those people that died, be it in times past, be it before Rome, be it during the time of the Greeks, like in the Maccabees, you know, the people that died during the time of Esther, the righteous that died in the wilderness, the righteous that died fighting the battles of Israel during the time of the kings and that were upholding the law, those apostles that died during the time of after Christ up till now. Read on.
Some to everlasting life. And some to shame and everlasting contempt.
Because remember, you got a lot of people that persecuted the Israelites too. You don't think Alexander the Great got a punishment coming to him? Look at what Herod. We read about Herod wanted to kill Christ as soon as he was born. What about Titus and Vespasian when they came into Jerusalem in 70 AD? What about Cortez and Pizarro and Columbus when they came and started afflicting and torturing our brothers over here in the Americas and sisters in the Americas? They got to pay for that. All those fake Jesuit priests that was sent and was coming over here spying in the land and what have you, and befriending the Indians or what have you, only to take notes and send messages back to Europe of how to conquer them. Then bring it up to today. The racism, the police brutality, the genocide, the drug war, the pharmaceutical war, that's still battling our people. Our people getting are strung out on drugs, not just illegal drugs, but even pharmaceuticals, medicine. It's been on us since the beginning. So that's why the Most High is showing us that's why it's important for us to take part of that resurrection, which means we have to come into these commandments and repent and do what's required and endure. Because a part of it we read where those that none that have taken the mark and all that's dealing with is satanic policy. We ain't waiting for no chip and all that other stuff. That mark's been around.
We got to go into that next.
Yeah, that's like a broken record among our people.
I know. And like I said, like I've been through these lessons on the channel, but it's just something about when the elder talks about it. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just, you know, to have you actually break it down is just it's mighty in the spirit, you know what I mean? But I know what did you want to do next Friday? You want to go?
We can talk about it. We can chat about it. I know I know
that Ezra's 13. Or what
was talking about that, yeah, and probably like the 350 years or something like that.
Yeah,
the last days, the prophecies on that would be something we could go into.
Some people.
What surprised the people? What's surprising?
So, okay, cons, because some people they ask.
We'll talk about it.
Con. We're gonna keep it in the spirit. Let's take a little vote before we log off. Do y'all want to hear the mark of the beast? The 350, the 350 years, or the what was the other one you said, or second Esdras 11 with the eagle? What do the people want to hear? Mark of the beast, the 350 years, or the second Esdras chapter 11 with the eagle in the wings? What do the people want? But we'll still, like the elder said, we'll still surprise the people. Somebody said all of them.
But you know what's funny though, because if you really know and understand the beast, and that's why it's important to kind of why I went into it. So you really have no problem reading Revelation, any of the chapters, because it's the same beast that appears. It's giving you all Revelation is giving you is a time frame of things that's going to happen. You know, and it's the same beast, and how it's just all you're seeing is it from its infant stage up to its end stage, and because it's the longest kingdom that has ruled, because you got to remember Esau's been in power since 333 BC. Even with a 1,000-year break, he still's ruled longer than any kingdom. You see what I'm saying? He's been on the earth for a minute, ruling
since 333 BC.
And you figure, remember, you deduct 1,000 years, he still got an 1,800 year, 1,000 years in place. You see?
Hey, elder, it's between the mark of the beast and second Esdras 11.
Oh, really? All right. Well, we'll chop it up and see what's up.
God, man.
Yeah, but hey, I appreciate everybody. Hey, don't forget get the book, because all this stuff I go over in the book.
Yeah,
get it, y'all. You know, read that Son of Perdition, because the prophecies and all going into all the beast, the red dragon, the image of clay and iron and brass that's in Daniel 2, the 4 beasts in Daniel 7, also Daniel 8. Because you know, Daniel 8 talks a lot about the growth of Esau as a kingdom, because even with the Greeks, it goes into Antiochus, it goes into, you know, Rome, it goes into the Caesars, it goes into, then when you get to Revelation, it shows you how the beast is expanded, you know, all of that.
The son of perdition. I don't know if the people can see it. Esau, the son of perdition, chapter 11. He goes into it. Esau, the son of perdition, chapter 11. He goes into it. This is a mind well instructed by what I'm Israel. You can pick this up at any book selling store, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, etc. But you know, he talks about a lot of the stuff that we talked about today in this book, A Mind Well Instructed by I'm Israel. I know a lot of people got it, but if you haven't, go pick that up. But wait till after the Sabbath.
The calendar, another big thing, and just, you know, a lot of discrepancies about the calendar. You know, like 60 pages is just the calendar dealing from the day the year, the new moon, the months, the seasons, weeks. Every aspect of the calendar is covered, so that it eliminates all the confusion. And like we had Passover, you had people don't know which moon is a new moon, and are just debating which this, when does the day begin? Is it begin at night? Is it begin in the morning? It's just so much stuff to kind of navigate through. But we're doing it. So we just gonna keep, the people stimulated and learn, and keep reading your scriptures, read them daily, you guys. Make that a point. Make time for your reading, make time for your studies. And stay out of them Jasher and Enoch books, and then read your scripture. And keep these laws. That's the key thing. Above all this other, these mysteries and stuff is cool, but we got to make sure we stay on point with these commandments. That's first and foremost. Yes, sir, man. All right, man. I'm gonna get out of here, bro. I appreciate it, man. I always appreciate the invite.
Man, of course, man. We love you, Elder. We love everybody that's online. Stay tuned. We're gonna do a toss-up. Me and the Elder are gonna do a toss-up and see if it's gonna be the Mark of the Beast or Second Esdras 11. That'll be next Friday. So y'all stay tuned to those. The Elder is an amazing teacher. The Most High put a beautiful spirit on the brother. All praises to the Most High for the brother. And we're gonna keep on rocking. So we love y'all. Happy Sabbath, Israel. And until next time, next Friday, it's Friday night, we'll be back here. Mark of the Beast, our Second Esdras, chapter 11. Stay tuned, family. Love y'all. Shalom.
Shalom. Kwame Yashala. All right, bro.
Kwame Yashala. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, man.
All right, Elder.